Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Welcome to the Saturday Night Sci-Fi paint and stream, chill stream, what have you. Looks like I have got Bloodworth and hey, how you doing, Richard?
Hey, how's it
And
going?
Omanal over there.
Hey,
How you guys doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Uh,
good.
it's another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. How you guys doing?
Doing
Good,
okay.
good,
What's
good.
wrong?
Today,
What's wrong with your camera?
I
Who's
don't
camera?
know.
Shadows. He's kind of
It's
pixelated.
running behind. Yeah, it's just delayed.
Okay.
I may have an update I need to update, but I'm running a little behind schedule. It's been a long,
Well, I mean,
busy
Bloodworth is as
morning.
clear as can be. That's why it's just odd. But yours is kind of pixelated. So, or
Well,
it's like,
I'm on my iPad as well, which I think is probably clearer than my new camera anyway.
yeah.
What's
Well,
up,
I'm
your
just mentioning.
trumpet?
But I mean, I look when I watched you guys earlier in the week. So I'm not sure what's going on with this.
What's that noise in the background?
Oh, let me turn that down a little bit. That's World of
It
Warcraft.
sounds like someone's dragging that chair from the Venture Brothers. Uh,
Yes.
I
That should be
am.
better.
Yeah. Perfect. Uh, just had a bunch of stuff to do. I had to mail all those packages. I had 11 packages, and one of them was like it was about this big. George wants to join as well. Nice, George. Long time no see. And I get to the counter, and it was the last one, and it's like almost 2 cubic feet. And she says, "How much do you think this one's going to cost?" I'm like, "I don't know, about 75, $80." She measures it. No, 120, and I'm like, "Nah, I'll
Oh,
just repack it." Yeah,
ouch.
so I repack it into two large flat rate boxes. End up costing me a little over half what the other box would have cost, and I get more insurance, faster shipping rate, blah blah blah. So everybody's stuff is in the mail. George, you have a big box. It looks like it's a rifle or something
Oh,
like that. It's really long and whatnot. Hopefully everything will arrive intact and nice. If not, let me know and I'll talk to the post office because almost everything in there is replaceable. Uh,
okay.
Other folks, not so much. They get one of a kinds. And sorry, but no one is getting the Bananarama CD. When I finally found it, it was trash. So I just tossed it. Sorry. I know
I
someone
feel
was really.
cheated.
I know
You did
someone
not.
really
It's
wanted
a
that banana. Someone did
cruel
get the.
summer.
Someone did. Someone did get the best of the Go Go's. Someone did get my entire collection of Blue Oyster Cult CDs. Someone got some Eagles. I just sent out a bunch of CDs, thinning the collection down.
That's what
And
MP3s are for.
I, yeah, no. I used to have an MP3 player, and I loved it. I really loved it a lot. But the my wife ended up paying somebody or getting somebody at her work to go through my CD collection and download them all, and it must have been a hell of a favor. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it still works if I could find the charging cable. And this was like 20,
Well,
twenty
no, no.
five years ago.
I, I'm just joking that most of the stuff you can find is MP3s now. It's it's or MP4s, whatever
Most
they are.
Yeah, or
most
just
of the
listen
stuff
to
I
it on
can just go
YouTube.
on my phone
Yep.
and YouTube it.
Yeah, I know. I have because it was a family plan, so my father got the Apple, unlimited, and I know Google has something similar, and so every year I go through the music in the last 5 years, trying to look for new stuff, and
Hmm.
because I hate saying this, I know everyone else like, oh, I love old music. Like, look, I've listened to it for like 10,000 times. I want to hear something a little bit different.
You know, I get that, but here's the thing: is I didn't listen to everything uh, that was ever made from back in the '80s, '90s, etc. So I'm like rediscovering old bands that I didn't like much back in the day, and now I can't get enough of them. So there's that. There have
I
been
do
a
the same
few
thing.
new bands.
No, I mean I do the same thing, but most of my stuff is and I have to laugh because I go out to the field with these 20-year-olds. They're like, "What music is that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's this," like Windrose and a few others, Danheim. Like, well, this is my Viking music. So, anyway, it's a lot of fun. It does some good background for people who don't get sidetracked. So, anyway, so what should we talk about tonight?
There's all kinds of things in the news which we
No,
could
no,
talk
no
about.
news. No, God, the whole point of playing fantasy stuff is get away from the real world. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it depends on the kind of news. Are you talking about gaming news or news?
yeah.
Real
This is
news.
I
different.
wasn't. I was talking real world news because it's kind of a joke here. We try to stay away from that stuff. There's other people out there that can take care of that for us,
Yeah.
and they're probably better at it. Um, and
Yeah, my
and I'm just
son,
going to go
my
on a
son
rant
just,
if I do.
my son just watched his D&D group blow up over politics. It was one kid decided to argue. It
Did
was
he
no,
start it?
well, no. One, how they never talk about politics, religion, or money. Well, he got two of the three at least, and there's probably usually a fourth. No, he's somewhat religious
It's
too. Anyway,
sports. I thought it was sports,
No, it's
religion, and
the
politics.
neighbor's wife. Don't talk about religion,
yeah.
politics, or the neighbor's
Yeah,
wife.
that's kind of a
Well,
that's
that's
yeah.
four. Yeah, that's the fourth one. But my mother always went, other than the neighbor's wife, but it's the well, what do you talk about at the dinner table? Because my family always went round robin. But basically, the kid's father was running the D&D group. There were 14 kids at one point playing at once, and he
There's your first mistake.
well, and his son got into it. Was at a birthday party for one of the other ones. Got into an argument with a cousin. Said something to the mother. Got to the point that he started walking home with his. Anyway, it blew the group in half. And my son's like, "Everyone likes me. I don't want to have to pick sides." I know, son. This way you don't politics. The other part is if you're at someone's house, be respectful.
And don't talk about their wife.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate because the girl he really liked was part of the group that is not going to be playing with his group. And I'm like, well, this is why you need to get a license. You can run up to Cameron's. You can go play with them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
sorry about that.
I'm working on this giant freaking starship model.
Well, let's
Miniature
see.
3D
Just hold up
print.
part of it, or okay.
This is the front cockpit.
Oh,
It's a 2-seat cockpit. Here's a couple of the cargo containers. It's got 2 on each side. It's got 4+ engine
oh, cool. Is it 3D printed?
modules.
Ah. When he said Starship, I thought like Elon Musk or something.
No, now I gotta let the damn animal in. Excuse me, guys. Okay, get your butt in here. Hurry up. Oh my god. And the thing's going to be about 2 feet long when it's assembled, but because it's modular, and I know the lady who 3D prints it, I'm just going to have her print almost a second one so I can make it like really big, because the interior has got I kid you not, like 4 little rooms.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, you're not getting lost in that. I want to make it
know.
so that it's, you can get lost in it, if you take a wrong turn.
I'm gonna mention this much for anyone that's people have no it's funny because you hear about ships, but just in how big like a Navy ship actually is.
Right?
People don't think about it because I always laughed at it because oh, it's only 4,000 tons. Yeah, but things like 300 or 400 feet long minimum. It's about 60 feet high. You have multiple floors on it.
Yeah.
It's and that's not even including the gigantic ones that are 100,000 tons. And
I went on the George Washington. It's like an aircraft carrier, like maybe about 20 years ago. Gosh, that thing was huge. And I just scratched the surface. There was a couple of rooms downstairs and a couple of things on the deck. My God.
It's well, and it doesn't. To be fair, you do get kind of claustrophobic on the size for stuff, but when you realize just how big it is,
I want to
Didn't they
pet
have one
you.
guy that was
Say hi to everybody. Come up here.
hiding out in the ship one
You want to
time
say hi?
where they had to go do a manhunt for him on the ship because he just like disappeared for like a week or something? It was a sailor.
Every time we talk about ships like that, my mind always goes back to whatever ship it was in Escape from the Planet of the Apes when they're running around, chasing the monkeys, Cornelius and Zira on that ship. I always go back to that ship because it struck me as a little one. I mean, it was like a shopping center. It was freaking shoddy.
I mean, when you start looking at it, a ship, if you put it vertically, it's as big as uh, a lot of
Skyscrapers.
skyscrapers. Yeah, it maybe not quite as wide, but it's a lot bigger than people realize. And the other part is, you know, talking about the difference between like Battlestar Galactica, which felt very claustrophobic and close, which is more like a real ship, and then you get
Mm-hmm.
something like Star Trek, which was incredibly open because that way they can move the cameras around very easily. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's I think that's the difference between the two. And the questions, what kind of spaceship do you want? Is it going to be the super open one, which just is a lot of dead space? You like, why would I ever build something like this unless you can stuff things in there?
Well,
Versus,
not only that, but the never ending requirements. The bigger you go, it blows my mind when I see like next gen Enterprise and other ships that are like 40K ships.
yes,
Just
the 110,000 people and like 1,000 to pull the single torpedo.
yeah.
Um, I,
I
I,
mean,
I
I,
like.
I think they were going for a space ballsy and ludicrous speed kind of dimensions and proportions. I have to think that because you know
Well,
otherwise it
40K.
makes no sense.
Anyone that grew up on Rogue Trader, if you like the original Rogue Trader, and they had the Inquisitor, which was like Sherlock, Clouseau, or whatever. They had these several names. It was all meant to be tongue in cheek. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
sometimes people took it too literally. And of course, just the
Oh yeah,
books
yeah, yeah.
matured. But the original 40K was intended to say, hey, look, here's a basic rule set. We're going to give you a setting just because. And you don't have to play with their setting. You can do it for anything that you want. And I do miss that kind of feel from 40K. Um, now it's
Well, I
uh,
I think they also got a lot of their inspiration from Dune as well.
well, it had Dune. It got it from everywhere. If you start
Just
looking
looking
at it,
for
it
it.
got
Why don't you say hi to
Starship
everybody?
Troopers. Uh, yeah, it was.
Maybe he wants
Let's
to go to the bathroom.
The Navigators came from Dune. They did some of that. They had basically it was, hey, we're going to stuff everything we can into this thing. We need stormship trooper. We need yeah. It was, but that's what made it fun, and it really made it kind of exciting. It's like every sci-fi that you've ever seen. You look in the back, and they say, hey, we'll do warp creatures. So yeah, I, I, but I'm just saying, I kind of miss having those rule sets. I liked them how they did some of the descriptions of why things are going there, and I understand from a business standpoint, I know why they went a different direction, but from this is what I love, it's very different.
What you doing, George? We can hear all of that.
No, I was grabbing some primer. I am going to maybe step outside and prime a couple of things before we start.
Okay, no worries. I was actually primering. I'll show you in a minute. Uh, these pieces, they're not going to show up very well because my shirt's black and they're black, and my camera
I,
is super delayed. This is one of the
it,
engines. Where's the big engine? Didn't I bring? Oh,
Oh,
this
neat.
thing. I mean, it's big enough to be a ship unto itself.
oh yeah, you know what? If you did that at a 10 millimeter or 15 millimeter scale, I think that it would look a lot grander.
Oh yeah, you know what? I could easily just put a couple of cockpits right there and call it a day.
Well, no. I mean, if you do the 2 foot building. This is why I actually like smaller scale. Yeah, from a artistic visual standpoint, I actually think that once you get to 35 millimeters, stuff like that, it looks gorgeous. But from a playable standpoint, I
It's a pain
actually
in the
like
ass.
10 to
It's
15
an absolute
millimeter.
logistic nightmare to store 28 millimeter and above terrain and miniatures in the hundreds, like I'm having to do. Let's see. We got George in the chat. We got Roosat, which is also George. We've got Hungar in the chat. Hey, Hungar, how are you and your brother uh, holding up,
All
visiting?
right. Yeah, what should I prime?
What? You're out of primer?
You can prime black or white. That's the question.
Gray.
Gray. Actually, I think gray's a good choice for priming.
It really depends on what you're going for. They make 3 colors of primer, well, more now,
Sure.
but for particular reasons. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, this ship, I went like some parts I primered white, like everything that was going to be red, primered white. Everything that's going to be gunmetal, I primered it black. The cargo containers, I primed some in white and some in black because I want some to look really, really grungy and some to look not so grungy.
Yeah, I've also seen like Layla Mev. She does like a pink primer and yellow primer under things and green primer sometimes.
Yeah. If you were going to go with, like, say you were going to paint purple, you might go with a pink. It'll make it brighter. Just like when you're painting yellow, you use pink, which blew my mind. I would have never thought. I would just think, oh, would you just go with white? You wanted yellow.
Yeah.
If you want a bright yellow, you go with white. But no, you actually use pink for yellow, and you can use browns and other things like that to kind of like take away a step or two of the painting process. What's up, Warmut?
I'm gonna be a heretic here and say I don't like matte paints for a lot of stuff. I prefer the shiny paint.
It really depends on the type of paint and whether or not you're going to clear coat it and what it is. If it's a metallic surface or a plastic or shiny glass or something like that, then absolutely. If you're going to go with trying to make them look grungy and filthy like Nurgle stuff or orcs, you probably don't want it to be glossy.
I
just
still
because
like
it'll look.
I still like glossy because it looks wet, especially for like a Nurgle thing. It's
Yeah,
like
I was going to say when you're doing slimes and anything greasy or sweaty or coming up out of the water, then yeah, absolutely. But other stuff, not so much. And if you're using like a metallic paint, that gloss can either really get in the way of it, or it can make it look like brand new off the showroom floor.
Well, what I mean by that is I prefer usually when you seal them, I prefer having a gloss versus a matte.
Yeah, I never seal because I never know when I'm going to repaint it, and or maybe someday in the future, Jackie will find my minis and go and want to strip them so that he and his kids can paint them. So I just sort of avoid that because it a lot of the clear coats are, especially gloss, are a freaking nightmare to strip clean.
I'm kind of like, if I paint him, I want him done. I'm done. I never want to see him again. No, I mean, this is purely for playing at this point.
Sure. There are things
my son doesn't
I
step
hope,
on him. Anyway,
right? There are a lot of things I hope will never get stripped and repainted. Like things that he and I did when he was a little guy. But if I'm not around, and he wants to use it as a.
Have you guys heard about the Great Scraping?
No.
Great scraping.
So apparently during the 1800s, there was what they called the Great Scraping. And what they did is they took a lot of the buildings that were completely painted, and what we think of them now is not the way that they were originally. They stripped them to the bare stone.
Definitely true in like.
No, we're talking about We're talking
no,
like
I never heard
a
of
lot of
it.
churches and everything else. The outside, they stripped them of paint to just give them that metal, not the metal, but just that concrete masonry look of stone. And that's not how they actually were. They were usually supposed to be very colorful.
No,
And
I
everything.
never heard of it like that. That honestly
It,
sounds terrible.
well, back in the day, everything was not that, again, we're talking about reality, which I know you don't like, but they wanted as much color and everything else as possible. So even these marble statues that we think are white, that's not how they were originally. They were all painted up.
Yeah.
And
I actually have some neighbors that painted their marble just like that, and it reminded me of like I said, Egypt. And I have seen, I think it was in Virginia, some marble statuary outside this one house, and you could see like blues and reds and things like that had slowly, deteriorated or been scraped off, and you could see it in the cracks and things like
but they
that.
used to do that for buildings, all over, and so the buildings were super colorful. So our idea of this medieval time of being fairly bland is exactly the opposite of how it was. They wanted as much color as possible, and of course there were certain colors that were banned from. You had to be a certain social class to wear certain colors. Red and purple.
And now what do we have? Now what do we have? We have spray paint graffiti everywhere.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I saw one of them where they had. Again, I don't mind it if someone does a mural. I just don't like that where they tag everything.
Yeah, there's like a street here in Denver where I used to work, that the whole street is done with murals all over the place, which looks pretty cool. But I mean, I'd rather have a pretty building than a painting on it.
I would rather have a mural than just the bare stone. That's just me.
Yeah,
it depends. I mean, if it's got like a side wall or something, but if it's in the front, I find that kind of tacky. But if they've got, like downtown where we live, there are the not shopping center, but like the main street, and in between, like at stop lights or crosswalks, in between the sides will have murals, and that's cool. But then on the front, it's a storefront, and it looks, business like, professional. There are little signs and decorations to let you know what kind of business it is, and I prefer that sort of aesthetic.
I don't mind that, because to be fair, you're not, when you just have a big blank wall, your choice is brick, just paint it white, or put it some type of mural. And I actually like going to the small towns as you drive through and seeing the stuff on the side, especially if it's still related to the business. Like they show like the history of the business or something like that. I think that's actually pretty cool.
Or like you guys remember Northern Exposure? You remember the TV show?
I do. That's a long time ago.
Okay. Well, there's this place called Rosalind's Cafe, and it had this really nice mural showing the history of Rosalind's Cafe.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't ask me why I remember that. I don't even know why I watched the show.
It was humorous.
Oh, now I remember. I remember the female lead. And whatever happened to her? Remember? That short-haired brunette, really hot for a while. Everybody was like putting her in commercials and stuff, and then she just whoosh disappeared.
I just remember I enjoyed it for a while, but after a while I got, the same thing was not Northern Exposure. It was, what was the one with the Mountie and the guy from Detroit, the cop from Detroit?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not ringing a bell.
It was not Northern Exposure. It was something similar, but it was a Canadian. But it basically had a Canadian Mountie and a one of the guys from and meeting the street savvy, detective from Detroit kind of thing, and it was fun for about the first season or two. Felt similar with Northern Exposure. I think that's sometimes the hard part is, and I understand why they do it. When the shows start getting stale, it's like, okay, I'd rather you just stop and keep going.
I actually, you guys know I'm like a huge Venture Brothers fan. So in my quest to understand the show, I went and I picked up Johnny Quest, the first season from 1964, and I watched about 5 or 6 episodes last night. Oh my God, that show is so freaking racist. unfreaking, way
Haji?
more than you might think. It was just, I was like, oh my God, no wonder they can't get away with this. They won't show it on, you know,
So
anywhere.
apparently a lot of this stuff I noticed, you talk about the things like this. Amazon has been bringing that stuff back.
Well, they just brought back Camp of the Saints. Not to get political, but that book was on the ban list, their ban list, and everybody else's for quarter of a century, maybe, or maybe not quite that long. But I just saw that it got recommended to me on my Amazon list because I was looking through all the books from the Red Room that I already have, and to see if there were any new ones, any new games that I could actually purchase through Amazon. And that one came up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Do you really think that way about them, and that it's somehow related? Because they're not really like that at all.
Well, no. What I'm referring to was like the old Popeyes and stuff like that. They brought a lot of that stuff that had been banned 20 or I say banned. What they did is they stopped showing them, which is the bad case. But now I've watched the stuff come back, and I'm just like, oh my God, Popeye smacks olive oil in the jaw. At one point, you're like, wow. That said, my son knows not to do that. It's like watching the Three Stooges. Okay, look, it's cartoonish.
But George, can you mute your mic until you find what you're looking for in the junk drawer?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. The animation, but the backgrounds of Johnny Quest were absolutely amazing.
So apparently, I was watching a couple of things, and I can't remember if it was Johnny Quest or the Herculoids. Both were very popular. Both only made about one season, but apparently I think Johnny Quest was too expensive for Hanna-Barbera to make any money, and so that's why they killed it after one season. Hanna-Barbera killed it, not the studios.
Because
It's
it literally looks like it's Jack Kirby art or better.
Well, that's what they did with Thundar too. Was that they did a lot for the background, and that's. To be fair, a lot of that stuff is kind of cutting edge. And
What's
then
up, Mark?
When we went to what was the I hate saying it, the 90s, they started doing the early CGI, and the backgrounds were just like uninspired. It's just even if you're static, it's like, okay, yes, but you at least had a more inspired background.
I'll never not absolutely love the old Spider-Man cartoon backgrounds as well. They were gorgeous. I know they were, like psychedelic and a mixture of watercolor styles, but still love it. Still love those old backgrounds.
But
almost as bad as Fred Flintstone pushing Winston cigarettes. I haven't watched like any of those kind of cartoons, the Jetsons, Flintstones, in 50 years. A lot of those like humorous cartoons just didn't do it for me.
No, the problem I have with them is that some of them were kind of funny, but they weren't that funny. And
well, I'm correct me if I'm wrong. They were meant for like a mixed audience of grown-ups and children. So like Bugs Bunny. So the grown-ups could watch and go, "Oh yeah, that's kind of funny." And the kids could watch and go, "Look, funny caveman." That kind of idea.
Well, the problem I had with it is that a lot of those cartoons were not aimed at mixed audiences. Now the Flintstones was, but some of them were really aimed at they were not aimed at. They were aimed at like younger kids than I was, because for me, like, I love Eek the Cat, the Tick, the old Popeye. If you look at the old Popeyes that they used to show in the theaters, which what they did,
they showed paper, George.
But those were pretty funny.
No problem.
Because they did everything in there. They would.
Oh yeah, like the old. I used to watch a lot of. It was Tom Hatton on Channel 5 on Sundays. It would be like Popeye and maybe some things like George of the Jungle and Super Chicken, Tom Slick, but the old Popeye movies, like the ones with Alice the Goon and things like
Yep.
that, those were really kind of grown up. That and Betty Boop. I was watching a video the other day on Betty Boop and how absolutely risque it was for its time. Today we would just go, huh? And not understand half the jargon. But when they figured out that they could do things like that,
Pre-World War II, I thought the cartoons in the United States were really good. I didn't really like a lot of the 50s. Johnny Quest and the Herculoids being kind of the exception, but I did not like a lot of the cartoons that were not action from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah.
Just because how do I want to put this? It wasn't like they were aimed at a general audience. What they were is like, these are children, and children shouldn't be watching that, and we have to have our moral objections to everything. And it's like, okay, like I hate Scooby Doo. I've always hated Scooby Doo.
Really?
I hated it.
It had its moments.
For me, I just hated it.
when they had back in the day when they had the guest, like Sonny and Cher or Batman and Robin, those were my favorites. Just because as a kid I recognized, hey, my folks watch Sonny and Cher. I watch Batman. I recognize that and the voices. Part of probably what got me helped teach me how to recognize people's voices.
But
the Flash and Superman are awesome.
What was the old Superman where he was not as super powered as they got in the 60s and later?
Yeah, he's talking about the Fleischer Superman.
Yeah. The ones where a bullet would hurt him, but it wouldn't kill him. It would hit, and it's kind of stun him. It'd be kind of like hitting you with a high powered Nerf gun. It was like, okay, it's enough to like distract me.
Knock it off, right?
But the other one was if you watch the old Muppets, I enjoyed the Muppets because that was aimed at more of a general audience. Mm-hmm. If you start looking at a lot of the jokes and everything, than just purely children.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why you're like, oh, okay. And it was meant to be, hey, vaudeville disappeared in the 30s or 40s. We're going to bring vaudeville back and put it on television as the Muppets.
Well, that's because a lot of, hey, what's up, Squirrel? Frank Oz and Jim Henson, they probably actually grew up at the tail end of that era and probably remember it.
Exactly.
As well as, Mae West and W.C. Fields movies and things like that, because you could see a lot of that influence in it as well.
I mean, I think that's just part of the things going. Sorry, Bloodworth, there, where you're being really quiet, and I'm not sure.
No, I'm just listening. I'm listening in. I'm playing a game at the same time.
Okay.
Apparently, I got my gaming schedule like off because when I had those two conventions, it kind of shifted everything by the bi-weekly schedule that we were doing. So I thought we were playing OSC tonight, but I'm guessing it's not until tomorrow, not until next weekend. So I'll have to adjust that thing on Discord to because I have like a scheduling bot.
Yeah.
For games, and I'm not too crazy about that. It doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be helping.
Because May 4th was, this week, or, what was it, Monday, I decided to buy a bunch of the Asmodee /Fantasy Flight books they have for Star Wars.
I'm kind of holding off. I'm waiting to get my my Venture Brothers RPG in the mail from Drive-Thru, and then as soon as that gets here, I'm going to go looking through Drive-Thru because apparently they'll take my money now. So let's, fingers still crossed that.
I remember you saying that.
But I was on a stream with Bear and Cold Iron Skillet, and they all did like some sort of voodoo juju thing, pray for me, whatever you want to call it. And the transaction went through, and I'm like, cool. This opens up a whole new world. Because I mean, there are a ton of things I would have, picked up and reviewed and looked at, especially the
Okay, good parchment paper, good for cookies.
the like I was saying in our collab video, I like the really obscure games that didn't get any love. Some of the
I was
I
reading some
remember
of your
when
stuff, and I think they do get love, and I think they're actually getting more of an older audience, oddly enough, because like OSC has just re-expanded a lot of younger people getting into that game, into the old BF, and really, like I said, layout matters so much. And
yes,
I'm not talking about the old games. I'm saying, but for new games, and I know you have it behind you, Adventures Dark and Deep. I bought that PDF. I looked at it and I went, you need to go back and we need to redo your layout. That no offense to him, but I looked at it. And then the other complaint I had with it was, and I know I mentioned this before, I really wish that he had done the Beckme style of weapons rather than the uninspired, hey, we'll just give you a bonus to hit and extra attacks and damage. I think that's kind of uninspired, because that was under Gary Gygax, was the master stuff where they had the weapons for the Beckme stuff. And I said that makes it really cool, because then you can do the
but the problem with that is like, okay, even the Unearthed Arcanus weapon specialization, it skewed the hit die for monsters. Suddenly,
no. You I understand where you're coming from. The problem was you specialized too soon if you did AD&D. But if you went to the Masters, by the time you became a Grand Master, you were already 11th or 12th level. And at that point, your weapons should be doing more than just what they're doing. That's what I said. It's kind of uninspired.
The problem with both systems is that, like for AD&D, it was easy to give the monsters the same thing. I could just go, okay, this particular leader or whatever, he's also going to have this +1/+2. No big deal. Bada boom, bada bing, done. With the master system, because I did try to understand it and look at it, and I'm like, yeah, this would be a nightmare to try to, decide when and where and what monsters could or might not or might have any of these little abilities. It was just too much.
Well, no, I feel a little bit different, because that's only supposed to be a leader, which is supposed to be your, that's the person you're supposed to spend the most time creating. And it should only be one or two of them. You should not be I hate this when they started doing this in second edition. Oh, we're going to send 9 10th level thieves at you. I said, first off, why are they even working together? Or, they're each supposed to be their own lords. And I think it's very different.
Oh, that goes all the way back to White Box, though. When you look at the old We Warriors modules and Dragon Magazine 1 through 52-ish, and people would walk into a room and there'd be like 10 Balrogs. Or they'd walk into a room and there'd be like, a full bunch of ancient dragons in the same. It was very common in the first, from, let's say, 72 to 79. That was a very common escalation sort of thing that was happening in the community or in the game world out there. People were just going through levels really quick, and you'd see parties that had 4 characters, and between the 4, if you added up their levels, you're going to break 200. There's 4 50th level characters. What are they going to do? Well, I guess it's going to be a room full of pit fiends.
Well, but that's what that's why I liked Dark Sun so much.
And it was really common. When I was working,
it wasn't, but a lot of times I also saw people cheat. But part of it just comes down to, if you're going to create a dungeon, have the dungeon make sense. I'm going to use like U1, 2, and 3. So
have it make sense. The hell you say?
Well,
I will raise you Tomb of Horrors and White Plume Mountain.
Well, but U1, 2, and 3 were excellent beginner adventures. The first one was you went through there.
I don't know 3 very well.
So 3 is when you fight the Sahagwin. You fight the Sahagwin.
Right, yeah.
Oh, you mean U1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
U1, 2, and 3. Yes.
I thought you said B1, 2, and 3.
No. U1, 2, and 3.
Oh, okay.
U3. Yeah. Let's be honest. You're only going to be fighting probably 4 or 5, and then it's up to you as the DM to give them a Grandmaster if you want them to be a Grandmaster. It's not that that's required. It's just one of those things that I think that, the problem I have all too often with fighters in any of the games is they get kind of boring in certain cases because, yeah, you get more hit points. Yeah, you do a sword, but this is why I like Axe and a few others. I think a cleave should be standard, and I know that Adventures Dark and Deep I think does that, and Dragon Slayer does, but I like the fact that, hey, guess what? If you knock down opponent A, you get another attack automatically. Oh, and you knock that one down, you keep, and you can get a chain going.
It makes it makes a very dynamic feeling in that particular, especially if you're like doing an AD&D kind of like minute melee round.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever watched any kung fu theater, or like if you watch the movie The Perfect Weapon and other movies where the protagonist is like executing like multiple swings or attacks and connecting, like in The Perfect Weapon, with those Eskrima sticks. I forget the actor's name. We tried to time it in 60 seconds. He was hitting like 40 times, and each one of them, while we figured probably isn't actually doing more than 1 or 2 points of damage, maybe a strength bonus, hard to say. But I mean, he literally just went like a drummer, just like wailing on this guy. It would be just there would be no fixing the guy because there wouldn't be a single bone unbroken.
But see, that's why I like having that Beckme stuff, because as you go up, guess what? Certain weapons give you armor class. I like the fact that it gives you the ability to throw a sword. It gives it a bit more dynamic.
Well, I mean, there's no reason why you can't just try to do those things. I mean, I've had my players throw all kinds of crazy crap because the bad guy is like running away, and they're like, "Can I throw my sword at him?" Try. Go ahead, roll the hit.
Well, yeah, but I mean is
if you hit him.
Well, for me, and a lot of times is once it's in the rules, and it's like, okay, and that's what I'm trying to say. If you're going to do something, and you can always put the word optional. It's just like, hey, weapons versus armor class, which I like how 2E did it better than 1E, because 1E was a pain in the butt, and sometimes it didn't make any sense. It's like, well, why is this better versus the shield versus just regular armor? But no, what I'm referring to
probably because they in fact were better. It's not hard to figure out, that a spiked mace is going to be better against chainmail.
Yes, but the problem is if you get a shield, then is it really better? That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Shields have never been really codified properly.
Well,
they started doing shields a little bit better, and I don't know what stage it was when they limited the number of attacks you would.
1E.
I think that was first.
Defend
1E
against.
Was that way. That was 1E. 1E had it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't think it was actually in the player's handbook.
No, but it was in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which where they hit all the rules.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that well, first of all, with Adventures Dark and Deep, number one, yes, it did start off with AD&D First Edition, and then he relied a lot on the things that Gary was writing elsewhere, whether it's Dragon Magazine or some of those other zines and stuff that, or
right,
like Dragon's Foot and those kind of websites and everything. And that's where he really pieced it together. So no, you're not going to see anything from Beckme making its way into this here, because if he were staying true to where Gary's mindset was at the time, Gary wasn't bringing anything from D&D, D&D basic over into it. I mean, the whole point of AD&D was to get away from anything Arneson that he wanted to avoid. So but I'm trying to think
but Masters wasn't.
You're mentioning the weapons. I think when you're mentioning the weapon things, and I know you were talking about masters, or you're talking about weapon mastery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me see what he has about weapon mastery here.
Well, he has weapon specializations, which is what I like some of the things he did in there, but
so
they're uninspired. Is my point. They're uninspiring rules. Is my whole point for that.
But what is so like what is inspiring about the ones from AD&D First Edition or from Basic? I mean, you got a +1 to hit, +1 to damage for your first specialization, and then you were usually around +1/+2 level before you could double specialize.
Well, yes, but for first edition, you could double specialize at first level.
Yeah, if you had the slots.
Yeah, if you had the slots, yes.
Well, I mean, you always had the slots. You just determined whether you wanted to use them or not.
Well, yeah, if you wanted to use them for that.
Unless it was bow. I think bow might have been a tough one
for
some players.
Yeah, I think weapon specialization for bow was 3, but you could, there was no double specialization.
What was extraordinary about that? I mean, it was like how
I said they're uninspired rules, but if you look at the master stuff, the master stuff had like subdual, entangling, some other stuff that some of that you could find actually, and this is where I would also look at it, is if he's taking credit for Oriental Adventures, which we all know is really David Cook, but if you look at the stuff that was in there, it's like, well, why don't you do more of that stuff? Because we saw it in Oriental Adventures,
right?
Because when did Oriental Adventures come out? Before or after Unearthed?
What came out, I think,
after Unearthed.
But before Wilderness Survival Guide.
And some of the stuff in Oriental Adventures was so good that Gary even said, don't use the monk in the player's handbook anymore. Use the Oriental Adventures monk.
Well, he said that specifically because setting-wise, the monk is from the east, not from the west. That's why he said
why?
Why?
Because it's a cultural thing.
Why does it have to be an analog of Earth?
It's a cultural thing.
Be a completely, why did it have
I understand where you're coming from, but if you actually look at it, I don't know, because it's Oriental and they brought an Oriental character into a European.
No, but I mean,
setting.
like the monk in the Player's Handbook could have just as easily been trying to depict the monks that were in Beastmaster. The John Amos's character and the young prince, the king to be, stars.
That came after. Yeah, that came well after.
No, I know, but it could have been trying to portray that kind of an idea.
It was based off of Kung Fu, is what it was.
Yeah.
They based off of Kung Fu.
Probably.
And the Beastmaster was better dressed.
Yeah,
I'm certain that you could go probably into like other fantasy novels and find martial sorts of monks. Even Friar Tuck was kind of a badass.
But Friar Tuck was still based on the real world. I mean, if you're trying to
I know, but
separate
you could still have other kinds of martial monastic orders that weren't based on it having to be Asian.
My point being is that if you're going to take this is when people complain about racism or stuff. Every character class is based off of a culture stereotype. The paladin. There is no equivalent to paladin in the rest of the world. I mean, that's the part of what's in there. The samurai. That's what I'm trying to do. Now, otherwise, you can just you can throw whatever's in there. But I'm just saying this is why, from a personal perspective, and this is one thing I think the 5e did partially right, but they didn't do it fully right. Is I really do like the fact of I really wish they had just done 4 classes, and as you go up, then you move up. I know Dragonlance did a little bit of this, but I would have really preferred, regardless of wherever you want to put it, is I really think a paladin should have been if you're going to view fighter as a hero. At 4th level is when they should have said, guess what? At 4th level, now you can become the subclass ranger. Now you can become the subclass paladin, and at that point,
that's what Unearthed kind of did. It was 5th level.
No.
Well,
the Cavalier. The Cavalier
the Cavalier and the Thief Acrobat and you had to be 5th level before you can do them. They didn't call them prestige classes, but that's
Cavalier was first level.
What they became.
Cavalier was first level but Kryn did it where you did the prestige classes.
No, what he means is a paladin in the Unearthed Arcana was a subclass of the Cavalier, and they had to be a Cavalier and make it to 4th level, at which point they could then become an actual paladin.
Yeah. Well, and see, I prefer that. I would have much rather had that, because then it's like, now, like I said, you're right, because at that point you're not stuck to a cultural aspect. You can throw in the cultural aspect, but a fighter, hey, samurai or a knight, they're functionally very similar. And then you can say, okay, now you got up to this level. Now you can go towards these cultural specializations or whatever you want to go, whatever culture you want to do. And I know that AD&D has, the 5th edition has done that, but I really wish they'd done more of that. And again, I do like what he did do with the Adventurers Dark and Deep, where you pay experience points for your skills. And so you're going to go, well, guess what? I'm going to pay for it. Now, the one thing I would do a little bit different than what he has there is I would make sure it's incrementally harder as you go up. So guess what? And this is what Chow's mentioned is, well, you have a farmer, and this farmer has the equivalent of being a 4th or 5th level in farming. But it takes years to get there. It's not just a, oh, well.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. That comes from Arduin. Arduin had it was the first game that had the everybody had a character level, if you will. Then they're called normals. Your bartender, your baker, your candlestick maker, what have you. They might be, a 12th level barber, and because of that, they might have, barber abilities, whatever. But they weren't just going to be the 2 to 5 hit point nobodies, because that just I understand why it was done, but it was not based on any sort of realism.
Hey,
If you've
Squirrel,
ever gotten into a
if
fight
they have
with
if
a
they have a
bartender,
deal on,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, well, Squirrel, if they have a thing for Hackmaster in their bundle of holding or humble bundle, I'll get it. But until then, I'm not looking at Hackmaster. So, really the part is like the Smith. I don't need you to be a higher level. You can still be 0 level, because then you don't have a lot of hit points. But your skill can be the equivalent of an 8th or 9th level.
But that's exactly
exactly.
No.
Yeah.
If you've ever met a guy at an SCA event or a real-time blacksmith, and you go and call him a sissy, trust me, you're going to probably get, a black eye, a bloody nose, etc. He's not just a nobody.
No. So you have a misconception. These are, at first level, you're a veteran, but then the other part is that the whole thing is 0 levels are not divinely inspired by the gods. They are not going to become into this. Just like whenever I heard you earlier, like Conan does not have an 18 double 0 strength. Those are supposed to be mythical heroes that have those strengths.
But again, I still think they could take a punch and a sword blow and have more hit points than 2 to 5.
Well, you can get up to 7 hit points in there. And if you want to give them a higher con, you can do that.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking like 20s and 30s, or depending on their stats.
Why give them so many hit points? Why?
Well, it does this magical thing of keeping the players from thinking they could walk through town and just murder everybody, and not one person will lay a glove on them.
I've never had players do that. I've had the players that did that.
Players do that.
Did you know what? The players that did that were also the ones that would also party kill, and usually I kick them out of the games anyway. So
when I was running games at the game shops that I worked at, that was a common thing.
I'm not saying it wasn't common. I'm saying I just tend to kick out players that were bad if they were going to do.
No, I mean when it's the whole group and they've already paid the shop owner, and I got to run it.
Well, you know what? There's nothing that stops me from doing that in a lot of games. But I notice after a while, it's like I'm not trying to kill off everyone in The Witcher 3.
It was just a thing, and I guarantee there are still people in places that are doing that. They've got their 7th level party, and they think they're hot shit, and they're just going to go through. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a good town. Maybe they're the heroes, and they're going to go into this hive of scum and villainy and just clear it out, because as far as they're concerned, everybody's chaotic neutral or worse, and they're just going to clear it out.
At the end of the day, that's when I start getting into combat tactics and stuff like that, and there are ways of scaling stuff up. But
Sure.
I'm like, look,
But if every one of them needs to roll a 20 just to hit the armor class zeros and things like that the 7th level party of do-gooders has, nobody's going to lay a glove on them.
What is the 7th level?
I'm just giving you a generic party of guys.
I know, but if we start looking at titles, which I always like doing, 7th level is superhero. I mean,
but that's not very superheroic to do that.
I'm not saying it isn't superheroic, but you also get super villains. But my point being is that I think sometimes those titles really did mean something, and people forget about them because even in Woody for Gygax, what did he mention? Oh, when you're a high-level magic user. What was his definition of a high-level magic user? It was 6th level in the DMG. And and we don't think of it that way. And I think that's part of the...
because by the time I had finished reading the Dungeon Master's Guide, I probably already had a 7th level fighter or magic user in one game or another of my own.
I'm not saying that it isn't. It's just I think that sometimes the expectation was, and I was going through stuff, and I was going through based off of, and again, when you start ignoring rules and doing stuff, then you're actually starting to play a different game, which is fine. But when we talk about the way that the rules were set up, is I was calculating it out, and I was using real world numbers, and the expectation was you might have a 23rd, I think it's 21st or 22nd level. That's how many characters that would be at that level on the planet at any one time. Was like that. And then you start going through, it's like, oh, okay. And I like putting certain things in there. And again, if you want something super high, that's fine. But then you're starting to play by a different expectation for the game. And then, of course, you have changed rules, at which point it becomes another game. That's why we have all these derivatives. It's inspired by
that and the fact that 2E proved to everybody with a typewriter that you could write a game and make hundreds of dollars.
2E anyway, but it was but no, I like a lot of the basic stuff for 2E. I really do. When it came out,
good stuff in there. There's some good stuff, but when you take out my favorite images and other things,
they did have better artwork in many cases because they had at that point Larry Elmore was really stepping into his own, and they had the plates, the full color plates. But I understand what you're saying for that. But I'm like, what? Some of it kind of felt childish.
As a young man, when you saw
Aphrodite and you saw the Type 5 demon,
Lovitar, etc., there were some images in there that were quite provocative and tasteful at the same time, and then they became comical.
Wait a minute, there were plenty of comical things in First E, like the Beholder.
Yeah, but I found most of like Easley's work somewhat comical, and some of the other artists that they chose. It wasn't as awestruck as everybody else was.
Are you talking about for 2E? I think 2E had really a lot better artwork. They had Braun.
Well, of course, I mean, in comparison, just because that genre and style of art had evolved, over 10, 20 years to where because prior to that there wasn't a lot of that kind of art.
There was no market
romance.
Oh yeah.
Other than the romance novels of like Charlemagne and T.H. White and things like that, there wasn't a lot of it. Once Tolkien came along and then White Box came along, then there was suddenly a new market for it. Although you could say that in the comic book world, thanks to Conan and Marvel Premiere or Preview magazine, had some things like that, and Khazar and Tarzan, etc. Those also brought in that sort of visual style of your macho he dude, hero, scantily clad women, etc. It took off.
I'm not saying it isn't. Like I said, I understand what you're saying. Well, they did this, but they were aiming at a different audience too. Well,
no, they were trying to appease moms who were busybodies and should have been smacked around and got the pimp hand.
I'm not disagreeing with that either, but honestly, at that point, No, I'm not disagreeing, because when I hear this about people talking about the woke and everything else, I said, the same people, they just switch sides from the evangelicals to the
because
other, it's that personality.
it wasn't just and the one lady that might be listening, it wasn't just because there were scantily clad women. I did mention Tarzan, Khazar, and Conan, who barely ever wore anything either. So it went, it worked for both, stereotypical genres, or excuse me, genders when it came to the eye candy. And that 2E mentality kind of took it away for a while. And why?
Yeah.
Well, what's the problem with that?
But even when you start looking at the later stuff, by the time that you got into the early '80s, most of that had already disappeared. To be fair, it had. I'm trying to think of anything. I'm trying to think of anything that happened after. Let's say Monster Manual 2. It wasn't in Monster Manual 2 or later.
What do you mean? That art style?
There's no nudity at all, I believe, in Monster Manual 2.
Oh, no.
No.
That's what I mean.
I don't believe so.
I don't even believe that other than the succubus and
that was 1E. That was 1E.
That was the original.
There wasn't really a lot of, per se, nudity. There was just scantily clad. Even Levitar is apparently, I believe, wearing something that may as well be see-through, but you can see the lines of the fabric.
But Aphrodite was nude. Blibdul or whatever, and Blibdul Poop. Oh yeah, because she was really hot. Anyway, and Blibdul Poop was the one with the head. She was naked from the head down, and her head.
Yeah, you're right.
I
would have never thought of that in a million freaking years, Omen. Just never. George, you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just,
okay.
I'm painting.
All I could see was the top of your head, and it wasn't moving. And I'm like, "You're okay, right? You're okay, right?" Okay, there we go. Yeah.
I guess the camera's.
So what I'm saying is that artwork
like nod off, bored.
I will say this much: that artwork had already passed, but there was plenty of. I like Larry Elmore and how he did the women. I still thought they were attractive.
Some of it, yeah, but there's some images that really, I'm just like. The faces.
Well, I'll be honest, they weren't risque. They were not risque. They were more of
no, but like a lot of the faces reminded me of Blip the what?
Yeah, exactly. You did have to go look her up. The Kuatoa goddess.
Yeah. The faces were kind of like sort of pug faced, I don't know how to describe it.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Most attractive women were not in the face, weren't like,
yes, that they were more plain. But I'm saying, but if you notice a lot of the artwork that he did, he still showed leg. He still showed, it was not completely, So anyway, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't remember any from Monster Manual 2 having nudity. And I don't know, did they have any even in Oriental Adventures? I don't think they did in there. Or any of their stuff?
Nudity?
No.
There was hardly any art in that book to begin with.
There was a lot of art, actually, if you start looking at some of it. It's just
I can grab it and take a look at it, but I don't let me grab it.
Okay, no, I'm just using this as an example because you're using all this stuff, but I don't think post 1980, which was, I think, Deities and Demigods was the last one for 1980, and I think
you're probably right when they had to recall that module, the Silver Princess module.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
When they had to pull back,
dude,
the
this book
Princess
is
module.
Of our work.
All of the other things, because that was post Monster Manual 1, but pre all of the other books. So yeah, they probably learned from that.
Dude, there's hardly any artwork in the Oriental Adventures at all.
Yeah. Well, but deities and
most of the
demigods
artwork,
weapons.
is actually the weapons and
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah.
Well,
There's not a
but
single monster image in here.
deities
Well,
and
no, there's a
demigods came out in
couple,
what,
but there's not
1980?
many. You're right.
Yeah, but deities and demigods had what, 1980? And that was the last
Maybe
one
I
I think
don't
that had
remember.
nudity.
Yeah, but when did the, yeah, but when, yeah, when was the who was that? Who wrote that? Gene Wells or Gene Robb?
I don't remember. I just remember 1980 or 1981, which that one had plenty of nudity in it. And then after that, I think there was none after that. I don't think in any of the things I can remember. I don't. Maybe there was one.
Which is really funny when you think about it. If you really think about what the deities and demigods book was 90% ancient, mythology.
Absolutely.
And if you were to go into a museum in Greece or what have you,
I lived in Germany.
What are you going to see? Way more than just that.
I lived in Germany. I lived in Germany, and it was so funny because people would get on to me for how can you let them read that book? I'm like, have you not seen the artwork around me?
It was Gene Wells. All right, so that module came out in 1981.
Okay.
All right, and they had to pull it, and all of the other books, all of the other hardcovers came out after that.
Yes. So deities and demigods was one of the 4 core. So the 4 core books, and that's where you had nudity, and then after that there's none.
Yeah. And then really after 81 there's none.
Right. And then the closest thing you had was D1, 2, and 3, where they made the drow. Actually, no, that they did have a naked one on the back of what was it, D3?
Yeah, not sure if she was naked.
She was naked. It was because it was a color. It was color, and it was a succubus, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I think that was the last one, and I don't remember if that came in 1980 or 81. It was somewhere around there.
Which one was it? D3?
Yeah, look at D3 or I think it's
Vault
D3.
of the Drow.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's either D3 or D1 2, but it's in the back. If you look at the cover, the back cover.
Descent into the Depths was D3. So right. Descent into the Depths of the Earth. And let me see if I can pull up the... Oh, no, this is D1 and 2.
Okay.
So that's going to be a part of the stream where we all look up the naked images in our D&D manuals.
Yeah. It's yeah. I know it's funny, but we're talking about artwork.
Yeah, I don't think that... Yeah, I'm not getting a good image of it anyway.
You need the back. I think it's the back. That's the back.
Yeah, image. I know. I can't even, because when I did D3 and it gave me Descent into the Depths of the Earth, but that's just D1 and 2.
Yeah.
So D3 is Vault of the Drow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the whole point was I think that was the last one where they had nudity in there. So I know that's what you complain about Second E, but this happened well under Gygax before. But
I mean, but bottom line is that I only care about game mechanics.
Yeah, me too. I love art too.
The game wasn't improved by it. Yeah, I mean, sure, when you're an 11-year-old, like, oh, look at the succubus in the monster manual. After the third time you've seen it, you don't see it no more. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're... it's not like it improved the game system in any way.
No, but
do you know what was sexier? Oh, they have. Oh, it's a 20th level cleric with 300 hit points, and it's a lesser goddess or greater goddess. That's what it was. I mean, I'm laughing at my 12-year-old
power gamers, right, folks? You gotta understand where I come from. It's the whole idea of censorship and trying to again appease the lowest common denominator.
But the lowest common denominator, I mean, I hate saying this, is everyone you always use lowest common denominator, but I don't want to use that word. There's the broad appeal, and then there's the specialist and the niche specialist, and I still look at it this way, which is,
but again,
the more people that come,
the hobby was affected by people who weren't even playing the game and had no.
I
had
know.
no-
Yeah, that was just you know what? It was like it was a product of the time, and
Yeah.
of course they were going to have the ability
Prude.
to censor
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
It was the it was the 1980s that the 1980s was both wild and prudish at the same time. You know what I'm saying? It was like it really was like a real separation between what our parents had allowed us to do when we were outside of the house, and then their expectations of our morality were two totally separate things.
See, that's that. I don't. I never saw it that way. Here in California, things were vastly different when it came to morality and prudity. Uh,
Yeah, but see, I grew up in the Bible Belt South, and so
yeah.
I had to deal with a lot of this crap. In fact, I had to deal with a lot of the, when people talk about satanic panic, oh my God, I had to deal with a lot of that crap that people in bigger cities didn't have to deal with it as much. But when you're a kid of 9,000, I grew up around military towns. But, oh my God, they really.
And one of the good point of that is that the same people who would have like, oh yay, you took out the nudity in the Monster Manual, still backstabbed them over satanic panic and all that kind of crap.
Well, it also helped. That also helped fuel the sales of D&D as well.
It was just like the warning labels on music. All that did was get more people to buy it. There's no such thing as bad publicity, as they say.
There isn't. As long as you quit. But I always found it funny for certain things, which is, oh my God, you did this. And now I'm going to the local library where my son is playing with 14 other kids. And everyone's like, oh, this is a really wholesome thing, that our children are doing. And I always went, it was always these, how do I want to say it? It was these busybodies that had nothing better to do. And you see them nowadays, which, they're the same people that are policing Wikipedia. That's the same personality. Doesn't matter which side you're on. It's the same personality that they want to control everything and determine what you can read and write when it doesn't affect them outside of, what do you care what books I'm reading? And I still remember reading the John
because
Carter
they can't
of Mars.
control you, and they can't get you on their side if you're allowed to look outside their side.
Well, but I mean, like, we talked about John Carter of Mars. Do you remember the Michael Whalen, which I love his artwork. Michael Whalen says, I got
he was a far better artist than just about anybody that ever worked in the D&D sphere.
I'm gonna have to run, guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries. Okay. We've been here an hour.
Got the girls coming up.
Well,
take care.
Thanks for flipping through your modules.
Yep.
And finding stuff.
All right. Take it. Yeah, I'll take a look at them.
Okay.
As soon as I can find them. All right.
Sure.
We'll have a good one.
All right.
See you Monday.
See you.
Yep.
It's no, but I mean, it's the same people. I just that's why when I looked at it, and I was talking to one lady who was a millennial, and we were talking about stuff. I said, "I'm sorry, the same people that are the woke people are exactly the same type I had to deal with the evangelicals in the '80s." I said, "I didn't like them. Get the hell out away from my game. Stop changing everything." And it's just like you have better things to do. There are real evils in the world, and this is what you're going to focus on.
Absolutely. That's what they focus on. Like I said, we even though I literally here in California saw literal satanic activity in the hobby, literal animal sacrifices and all that shit, because California, it's still D&D was never part of that. You know what I mean? Nobody ever came into the game shops and said, "What the hell is going on? What are you guys doing? Get my kid out of here." None of that ever. You'd be amazed how many moms dropped their kid off to play D&D while they went off and did God knows what. I think it was
yours were like that, but oh my God,
proximity to the proximity to the actual Bible Belt at the time, as well as the East Coast versus West Coast sort of mentality. When the West Coast, was especially for California. I don't know about some of
It
the
was
other states
similar in
with,
Jersey
with
and
our like
California.
beach culture. 1980s was the like the
Raunchy comedies and all the other stuff.
not just that, but like the thong on the beach.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, you
no,
couldn't go to the beach and not see like 500 of them.
yeah,
Okay, it was a completely
Don't,
different
don't, don't, don't.
mentality when it came to that. When I mean, you take 800 steps and you're on the beach. You know what I mean? And that picture in a book is like freaking nothing. There's like take your pick. You know what I mean?
Well, well,
It was
well. I
it was
always, I
different.
mean, I like I said, I had to deal with this crap, and admittedly, I was in Germany,
Yeah,
so
it sounds fucked up,
well, I had to
but at
deal
the
with
same
like my
time,
friends couldn't play games. I mean, the stuff that Max Liao talks about, that's very similar to what I had to deal with.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and
That
it was like, oh my god, and I went, so you're complaining about a bunch of nerdy kids who stay by themselves, but you're okay
and are
with
getting
the
good
bullies.
grades and
Yeah, but
yeah,
then
We've
you're worried
got
about these
glasses.
bullies that are coming over that are sports, and you're like, well, that's okay. I'm like, really? Not that I had problems with it, but I had heard
yeah,
plenty of other people that did, where they actually had stuff like that. Where I grew up, oddly enough, is the bullies tended to get beaten up. Uh, it was, I mean, I hate saying it, but like, hey, you've exceeded what you're allowed to do to this kid, and now that they would gang up on the bully and beat them up. And it's
mhm.
like, and I don't mean, I mean, like, if your bully was like, I was 8, there was one that was like a year or two older than me. And then I saw the teenagers come in and beat him up one time. I was like, well, all right. There was some self-policing where I was for that. But I just thought it
Yeah, we
was,
had that too, but it was it was also maybe more violent
no, I
for
wasn't
my
that much. It was
experience.
not,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was,
when I mean more violent, I mean like knives and guns would be involved versus just getting beat up.
right.
I
Well,
saw
no,
a
that's what
lot of that
I'm
in the 80s. Maybe that was because of the proximity to Santa Ana, where you know that was a big thing. The sort of gang mentality. Everybody carried a knife or worse.
yeah, that was not where we were. There was not, um, and again, like most stuff is, it just depended on where you were. So like I said, where I was,
Mhm.
um, you know, there were no bleeding heart liberals. Um, I'm not saying that there's like maybe one or two, but I still remember at one place where someone decided to, and I'm not saying that there wasn't violence. There was where I was in Kentucky, but I still remember one of them where it was a pawn shop. A guy held up the pawn shop. Um, the husband came because he was holding up the wife, chased the guy down. The guy threw the gun away. Um, he thought it was his wallet. Well, basically, he stole his wallet. He chased after him, thinking the guy had dropped the wallet. No, the guy had dropped the gun, and then he shot the guy. Never went to trial. So there was not like, yeah, it's like, well, that's what you get for robbing people. It was
Yeah,
like, oh, you shouldn't do that. And I think there's, that's the problem I'm noticing nowadays is there's too many people like, well, he grew up in a bad neighborhood. I'm like, I don't care. Your actions are your own. Guess what? I'm sorry.
yeah.
Your child's still evil. I don't care if he came up from the evil drow background. He can choose to be good, just like Drizzt chose to be. Sorry, I never read those books, but I know everyone talked about
Yeah,
them.
I didn't either.
Legacy of the
Uh,
Drow. I love
Hey,
book.
there's a 2-for-1 sale. I'm not sure if it's over yet on Audible for all of those old classic D&D books.
I never,
I,
I never
so,
read Dragonlance. I never read Gord. It was always the classics. I always, uh,
me too.
and I know a lot of people like Bloodworth can't stand Fritz Lieber's characters or whatever, uh, Grey Mouser, Fafford. I think they were far more influential than to Gygax
I think that
than Tolkien.
no, I think I agree with a lot of that. I think that Tolkien, to be fair, in a lot of it, I think Tolkien came out mostly. Now, I'm going to say this much for the races, then absolutely it's Gygax and some of the monsters, but a lot of it is taken from, the the cockatrice, the basilisk, the demons. When you start looking at all of that stuff, like, where did these come from? You realize that Gygax was very well read, and he pulled stuff from all over. I think that more of Hero's Journey, in my opinion, had a huge effect. Was it Journey? Whichever one we read.
Yeah.
The Heroes, I thought that had far more effect than I realized on a lot of the character classes.
Well,
like,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was an amalgamation of not just that book, but a lot of other books as well. There's a reason why the original deities, demigods, and heroes, and the later deities and demigods had the New Home myth in it. Not just because they could, and it probably wasn't very expensive to get the permission, but Gygax hung out with Lieber, did he not?
Yes, he did. He actually advertised him on some of the conventions. We're going to have for two. No, I'm not saying that they weren't. What I'm saying is that when we talk about influences, there are, when you look at that Appendix N, you can see those influences all over D&D from each of those sources, is what I was trying to say. It's not just one source. He didn't just purely do, like, Merc. Oh, this is Middle-earth role-playing. And, Gygax was a big war gamer. He was a big war gamer, and a lot of those guys read, and especially with him being up in Wisconsin, like the Finnish myths. I'll be honest, whether people like it or not, is a lot of that stuff got me interested in math and science and geography and economics and all this other
if it
stuff
wasn't for it, my grades were like at that time going through like a serious slump when it came to math and other studies, not reading. That was never an issue. I could always be found with a book in my hand, and but like math and other things, had it not been for the needing to do beyond the basic math, or at least be able to do basic math better, if it wasn't for the formulas and the requirements and calculating spell range and areas effect and things like that,
I think that
I would have actually been held back, which I guess was I guess the 80s, or when they stopped holding kids back, for not graduating. I don't know.
I guess that was early 90s or whenever they started. Well, I heard the worst one was
It
once
was
they got the No Child
holding
Left
kids
Behind.
back in my.
What was that, George?
Oh, they were still when I was in high school, like that time. Well, at least my grade school, people were getting left back still.
I noticed a lot of.
So I graduated in '89.
Well, see, I graduated high school in '91, and they were still holding kids back. It's the No Child Left Behind. When I talk to some teachers, where they, rather than like most stuff is, that's where they were just afraid of doing anything. Speaking of which, I don't know if you just saw Alabama passed California for reading and writing in their schools. It's like, oh my God. It's
welcome back, Chris.
How you doing?
Hey. So
chilling like supervillain.
I think that for the gods and everything else, and while they put them in there, and this new generation just understands nothing about it because they want to look at it from a modern. The problem is when you look at things in a modern lens, rather than saying, let's look at it of how it was back then and go forward, rather than trying to say, well, we know so much more now. Like, well, yes.
Well, they have no cultural empathy.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even saying cultural empathy. I think part of it is that, and this happens to everyone, to be well, people have no historical context for stuff, and when you start looking at it without the historical context, you just miss so much.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I can almost kind of see, that it's not necessarily their fault when the school system is trying to. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see in the next 5 to 10 years history being dropped from the curriculum.
I'm gonna bring this much up, and I'm not trying to knock it. Is I don't really put much history with my son. I've had him read history books, but the problem I've had with a lot of stuff is trying to relearn things. And what we're going to talk about, I'm going to go back to D&D more of this. My issue really with D&D was, do you remember weapon weights?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start talking, and of course we know so much more now, which I think D&D has a huge impact on actually getting things correct. The two-handed sword. It's not 10 pounds. The reality of it is it's about a 4 to 5 pound sword.
Well, I would chalk that up to Gygax not having ready access to wall hangers.
Well, and my point being for all of that is D&D encourage people to learn the actualities of these weapons and everything else, rather than just trying to, like, we know far more about armor penetration and Linethax armor and all this stuff than he did back then. So it's some of the things just like, okay, you don't understand some of it. A lot of our stuff came from Hollywood, and Hollywood has their own issues.
Well, I think also that maybe the source material that he was reading, the classics, the they could have made things, they could have embellished the weights and measurements to make the heroes sound, stronger.
Yeah,
and some of it,
I think part of it's just to simplify things, just simplify the math. Like if you make if you made like the gold to silver ratio in the game real, it would be like 60 or 70 silver to 1 gold instead of whatever it's 100, I think, or sometimes it's 10.
10.
It's just sort of 10. Okay, I guess in World of Warcraft it's 100.
and some of it really, again, I'm not saying that you just simplified it, but a lot of stuff was not, and they took it the same way. Is what I'm trying to say is we know a lot more about armor and weapons, and I think a lot of that is because people grew up on D&D and said, I wonder what they really are, and we've gotten away from historical props, and we went to actual weapons. Like, hey, we can go to the Tower of London and actually put it. And a lot of it, I think, also happens that, back in the day, you remember this, you either had to get mimeographs or you had to buy a book, and you had no verification if that book was correct or not. And nowadays you go over and it's like, well, what's this? So a perfect example is just the because I always like watching this stuff from Uncharted X and things, is the vases from Egypt. And for the longest time, so basically the vases from Egypt are very well done. They obviously were done with lathes. They were done for certain things that archaeologists said did not exist at the time. But my point being is that we have better tools. We have more things out there. We don't rely on just one expert that knows something. It's like, oh, well, we'll go look at this. Well, let's double check it. Oh, well, look, we found this. I know another good example is Francesco della Oriano sailed down the Amazon River. All of us can go look, can read that book, can read those books now. But it was ignored for like 400 years. Oh, the Amazon, there were almost no people there. And you can read the accounts, which he actually went to court. So it's not like these, they didn't have a lot of people in there, but they're like, oh, they talked about, massive cities and well-populated in the Amazon and all this other stuff. And when they came back 100 years later, they said, well, that's not true. And now we're starting to clear cut part of the Amazon. We're like, wait a minute, we're finding a whole bunch of villages that have been there and things like that. So I think from a D&D perspective, we like the mythology, which we do, but we also like some of the realism that comes into it. And it encourages us to look at, well, how did they do it in reality?
I think like when we were kids, the Vikings discovered North America was still technically a theory. They never found anything, and then I think somewhere in the 80s, early 90s, they found the place in Newfoundland.
And we had stories of it for the longest time, but they're like, oh no, and so it's like, well, okay, but that's all I'm trying to say is we have a lot more interesting things that D&D encouraged us as kids to say, well, what's this about? Like mythology. Oh, I don't know anything about Japanese mythology. Let me go learn about some of that, or let me go read about the Indian mythology. Whereas if you've never been exposed to it, you probably would have never looked it up.
That's absolutely true.
So that's why
in a lot of places growing up, just the mere mention of or bringing that stuff home was frowned upon. There were a lot of types of parents who, if they saw you bringing those kinds of books home, would have thought, less of you. Um, you were, well, we don't want our son to be a nerd, Martha.
Oh
That
yeah.
kind of.
Oh, I remember seeing some of that. Well, they wanted you to be part of the honor roll, but they didn't want you to be the nerd.
Exactly.
It was
as long as you got good grades and didn't rock the boat and didn't,
Yes.
Do anything, weird or out of the ordinary, it was fine.
Well,
whereas like here in California, there was a lot less of that. I know a lot of people that moved to California in the 70s and 80s, and I would know their families and stuff. They were very different and more strict and less understanding of new things, but yet they had still moved to California. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean,
what did you think you were getting into? You know what I mean?
Well, there was some of that, but then to be fair, California did not go this complete what it is now.
No, but for them back then, it kind of was.
California had jobs.
Yeah.
Well,
now
until they didn't.
So okay.
Until they didn't, right?
Yeah.
Like, as they're so falling down the
yes, exactly. I was just going to bring that up.
Well, did you see what I was joking with Cal out there? Was when he said, I said, when did you move out of California? Because you're showing all this greenery out his place. Well, you know what? To be fair on a lot of stuff is I heard a lot of stuff that, like I had a friend of mine who was Nigerian. He said, "Oh my God, all the Russians did all this stuff." And my father was of course, my father was an army officer, so we learned a lot about battles. Like, yeah, didn't you know that the Russians were involved in World War II and they took the Soviets, and they took the brunt of the casualties? But it just wasn't taught in school a lot of times. But it encouraged you to learn about stuff. The same.
Well, no, because of the Cold War propaganda, they just out and out lied.
Well, some of it is not even that they lied. I think some of it is, and I hate saying this, it was because I talked to people that were from Britain. It was like whichever country was there. Well, we did the majority of this, and we did the majority of that, and it's like, okay, that's a cultural bias about how important they were. I'm sure that.
Just to remind people that they were also the allies of the Nazis in the beginning of the war. At least technically, you can go fight them, and we won't attack you. And of course, the Nazis broke that treaty.
Yeah, well, that was the Czech. That was Czech. It wasn't until they invaded Poland. But that's one of the reasons I like enjoying learning about history. Was like, okay, but I've had to unlearn a lot of stuff because I have friends that are archaeologists, and I talk to them about things like, well, okay, and we all have mythologies, and I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we're playing with mythology, which I think is the problem that people want to look at is, no, like you said, you don't want something like Earth. I like something that's Earth adjacent. I like things that are somewhat realistic.
Well, there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it, as long as we're speaking English and not, some made up language. But there comes a point where if you don't branch out and don't try to expand your world, all the worlds that I've encountered kind of could be the same freaking world because they're so Earth adjacent. Let's say in my gaming history, I've played in 100 different D&D worlds.
Sure.
97 of them could all have been the same world.
Well, I'm going to bring this up. I don't mind.
Tens of thousands of people I've played with. That's not good.
But see, I don't mind the fantasy aspect for that. What I don't like is the Star Trek. Where are my aliens? I want things that don't look human.
Oh yeah.
A perfect example was. Now, I don't know if you guys watched it. It's a good movie. Was Project Hail Mary.
Not seen it yet.
No spoilers.
I recommend seeing it. It's kind of slow. It's not. If you're looking for an action thing, it's not there. It's all character driven. There's a little bit of action, but that's not. But who's the main character? The other character is a rock monster, basically, who lives in a different.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I just watched a video, and I didn't want to really talk about this, but I'm gonna for a minute. I just watched a video, like supposed to be the most comprehensive video on the ETs that have visited Earth,
Yes. Yeah.
and every last one of them is a humanoid.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
So
that's-
either our humanoid shape is the optimal shape to coincide with intelligence, or it's a flaw built into humanity's imagination, or what they will accept as a possibility. You know what I
I
mean?
have an easy solution to
Yeah.
this one because it's something that I, as someone who does design for aliens all the time, has a very easy and
Chris,
objectively correct
meet Jack.
answer to.
Jack meet Chris, Chris meet Jack.
Hello?
You know George, you know Owen.
Yeah.
Let's hear it, sport. Let's hear it.
The
Quick.
reason why we're always making aliens that look vaguely humanoid is because the human brain is naturally inclined towards liking things that look like us, that look appealing to us in one way or another. There's a reason why we breed animals to look like babies, why cute things look like human babies to us, and not like whatever other thing. It's because it's naturally in our brain to desire to be generally around things that we like. Being around other people is more beneficial than being around a bunch of hyenas. Therefore, when we design things, we're of course more inclined to make things that look like things that we want to see. We don't want to see, on average, unless you're a freak, a giant 7-legged octopodal cat beast, because we've never seen that, and if we saw it, we'd probably die to it. But something that looks more human features is, generally speaking, more appealing, so more people are inclined to design things that look more like that.
Galaxy Quest. Sorry. Yeah. No.
What you got, Chris? What you got for us, Chris? Get your hand raised.
The reason they look all so humanoid is because they're the ones who built us. They made us look like them.
Well, you know what? Jack may have the other point too,
Well,
which
that proves
is that the
hey,
aliens-
hey,
I'm very busy.
Okay.
that proves Jackie's theory. That proves Jackie's theory because they made us to look like them, so we keep the process going by taking animals and making them look like us.
No, I'm going to bring up the other part, which is it's not that there aren't tons of other aliens. They just don't want to hang out with the other aliens they think are ugly. So that's why they hang out with us.
Imagine, if you will, you're this ultra high-tech, ancient, billion-year-old civilization. You've traveled 1,000 light years, let's just say only 100 light years, across the Milky Way. And what do you find? The most corrupt planet in all of the galaxy.
Hey,
Wait, we're on Tatooine?
What if we're
And
actually
degenerate.
Or
what if
Washington,
we're actually the best, most moral aliens in the galaxy? It's
Well,
all
you know what
downhill
that-
from us.
What, do you know what that means? That's
Fucked up, Chris.
That's
That's
called
so
war.
fucked up.
wait. No. He's correct because none of them want to hang out with us because they don't want to be around us. It's like what was
We're
his
like
name?
We only have a small talent for war.
Hey, we're like paladins. No one wants to hang out with us because we're the most
Yeah,
moral.
exactly. Exactly.
We have that small talent for war. We're not ready for the big leagues.
No,
Cue the
no.
X-File music.
There
Yeah,
was-
it was like there was like one of those newer Twilight Zones or something like that.
Oh, I
like
think
the-
I was
in the
just
late
going to bring
80s.
that up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
called a small
like-
talent
it's
for
like
war. That's what I was
all
referencing.
your
Oh, yeah.
all your petty wars and border disputes. What are you doing? And then like, oh, we've made. And then like they come back to them. We've finally made peace on Earth. He's just laughing.
You have failed.
It's just really-
Well, you know what I enjoyed was the 90s Outer Limits.
I think so. Yeah.
The
I'm
90s
not
Outer
sure which it was. Bear and I were talking about it, and I grew up all this time up until last year thinking that it was John Q. Delancey that played that part of the alien, but it wasn't. But my brain, for whatever reason, could not remember the guy properly. And you guys know I'm pretty good with
Glover?
The guy
His
from,
name?
I think it's the guy from Scrubs who played the one doctor.
Dr. Cox.
Yeah, I think it was Dr. Cox.
No, I don't. Maybe, but I don't think so. But how weird, how much better would that have been if it was actually John Q. Delancey, and that's where he got his start.
I don't know.
The guy
I'll
who
make sure.
played Q.
Oh, you know what though? I hated Q as a character. I hate that whole thing.
Yeah, but he
But
was so funny. He was so good at it. You have to at least give him that.
I've there's been several things that I have been, but no, I mean that's one of the things I liked about. If you ever remember the Tales from the
He
Dark
sure
Side,
beat the hell out of that Liberace version from the original series.
did you ever watch Tales from the Dark Side and some of the stuff that they had for aliens and things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I had the intro. I actually taped the intro for
Oh,
that show for a mixtape.
it was John Glover, the guy who played
Yeah.
Lionel Luthor on Smallville.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I have. Again, my whole point, and this is where if I'm playing fantasy, I don't mind it being Earth adjacent. What I'm more tired of is when your aliens are basically uninspired elves. That
Hey now, one of my favorite aliens are elves. No,
There-
totally.
There
I
was
mean, there's.
oh, good.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say there was a meme today that I saw that was nice that said, "I've always believed that there was alien life in the universe, and now that the government says there is, I have my doubts."
oh
Yeah,
but I mean, there's
I
a lot
think
of
I'm
stuff
in that
there.
camp actually.
Yeah. When I first started my YouTube journey, I wasn't very much a Christian, and I was a big fan of watching Ancient Aliens, and I've been studying the whole thing since I was like 9 years old. And I found my dad's copy of Chariots of the Gods, Eric von Daniken, who I think just passed away recently. I was always looking into that stuff and exploring that and religion and philosophy and all that crap. And all it took was for the U.S. government to do what it did last week for me to just go, there's no such thing. Case closed, solved, done deal.
Well,
Fuck them.
I mean, I think that's part of the attractiveness of Cthulhu, is because those are non-alien aliens. Non-humanoid aliens.
Who?
Cthulhu.
The Cthulhu mythos. All of
Oh,
their
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
they are not human beings. Well, Coco B, which Star Wars? Oh, the D6 characters. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Hey,
yeah.
Coco. George and Dave, I believe they need your mailing address. Hit me up on Discord so we can get you your prize from the giveaway. Yeah, I I don't know about you guys, but I remember when I was pre-kindergarten drawing monsters, like with crayons and stuff, tentacles and three eyes, and kid, your
Yeah.
stereotypical kid pictures of monsters, and they never were like two legs, two arms, and a head where the head belongs. You know what I
No,
mean?
no.
And we've got I mean that was something I did once upon a time for a particular campaign was I went through the monster manual and the monster manual 2 and the fiend folio, and I went through and looked and tried to decide which of those kind of monsters would actually just work great as aliens. The aboleth,
Yeah.
totally could picture that as what's up off grid.
Oh, I love them. I love the
Easily,
Aboleth. Yeah.
doable.
I-
One of
but
my
that's-
all-time favorite creatures. Easy top 10, or I don't know, maybe did or didn't make my top 10 list back last month. Absolutely terrifying monster if you play them right with their illusion abilities and their intellect, etc. The players never. You could literally have the players encounter the aboleth and never even see it. You know what I mean? It could be so far removed or invisible or illusion. It's a rock. and still mess with the players. It's literally like the ultimate trickster monster when it comes to making them doubt their own, senses, what they see, hear, smell, because of its illusionary abilities.
Well, the same thing was supposed to happen with beholders, some of the Yuan-Ti. Even though like I said, is
Mm.
The more alien the monster is, the more terrifying it becomes, which is part of the reason I like
What
that.
Jackie said.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, the less you're familiar with it, which is the point of why you're supposed to have demi-humans, and then you're supposed to have the beastmen, which were the corrupted version, and then you start going over into, the other stuff. It's like, well, okay, and I think, again, I like having, that's one of the reasons I love dinosaurs. I know Bear doesn't, but I love dinosaurs because like those are real world monsters. No matter how you cut it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, George?
That's
I just saw IOG. I thought that was funny. You could just say that.
Go ahead, Chris. What's that?
I wanted a written record.
So one of the reasons I jumped on tonight was I know, Shadow, you're always interested in kind of like weird and rare role-playing games.
Absolutely.
So I just happened to get something in the mail the other day, and I figured I'd catch you while you were on tonight. So have you ever heard of or played Legendary Lives?
It looks familiar, but I know I've never read it or played it.
I have not. I did have.
It's from 1993. Oh, second edition, 1993.
Okay.
By Joe and Kathleen Williams. And I think they're out of California too.
What's the basic premise of the game?
Well, this is all right. So it's been 30 years since I've seen this, so bear with me here. And I just got this, so I haven't had a chance to really dig it over. But it's a fantasy game. But one of the big things in here was the mechanic uses this resolution chart here.
Okay.
I'm trying to think real close.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
It's
fails.
It's just blurry where it is. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, it's kind of like it's a cross-reference chart, and then there's different levels of success across the top, like catastrophic, pathetic, feeble, inferior, poor, then up to passable, good, great, whatever, blah blah blah. So it's kind of like the Marvel chart.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sounds very much like that, but that's okay.
One of the things is, I think it's got its own kind of default setting, but I think it's kind of open to you. But it's got how many here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20, over 20 some races. And it's got avian, barbarian, brownie, bush person, corsair, draconian, dwarf, easterling, elf, elfin, entomolian, feral, furbolg, forester, goblin, gypsy, hillfolk, hob, netherman, nomad, ratling, serpentine, she, as in the Celtic she, spriggan, Viking, and wolfling.
Okay.
And like I said, it's a percentage system. But one of the things, if I remember correctly in this, this was a game where the game master never rolls anything. The player makes all the rolls, which I never saw that again until they came out with the Cypher system.
Cypher,
yeah,
Room.
It sounds like a nightmare for the GM.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them, and I'm going to be a little bit different because I know Cypher.
But the races sound interesting.
The other thing, too, is the way I remember they did magic in here was similar to if you've ever played Mage from White Wolf.
Yeah. Yep.
No.
A Mage in White Wolf, you had spheres, you control, like matter, forces. And, forces was all kinds of energy. So you could sit there and describe what you wanted to do. Basically, you made a forces roll and it would happen, right? And they have that in here, but in here it's broken down a little bit more. Instead of just forces, you would have like fire, lightning. Instead of just earth, there's also plant, things like that. So the magic in here is very there's no set spells. It's what the person casting magic wants to use their spheres to try to accomplish, and you make like there's a difficulty, and you want to make your roll to see if it happens.
Right.
Which
Okay.
for 1993, that was pretty out there.
Well, that was right up with.
It's funny you mentioned that. I'm rereading the Amber Dice's role playing game, and the magic kind of sounds like that too.
It might. So this, at the time, this is one of those games I gave away years ago, and I've spent years trying to hunt it back down.
You got a good copy though. Looking at it.
Now, one thing of theirs I did keep was this game, which runs off the same basic system. It's called Lost Souls, and this is actually a horror role-playing game. The easiest way I could describe this is: have any of you ever seen the movie The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox?
No, because it probably has Michael J. Fox in it.
Well, it's pretty much Frighteners, the role-playing game.
That was really well done, Coleman.
It's true. I hate saying it. It's true.
In this, you actually play ghosts.
I had a feeling.
There's a whole bunch
similar to Wraith, or it's before Wraith.
Or Chill's creature feature.
Oh, this is before Wraith. This is also from like 1991.
Okay, so yeah, that predates Wraith. Yeah.
And so all your abilities as a ghost, obviously ghosts, and you're trying to stop central threats from coming into the world or whatever. But all your ghost powers are based on real life haunting powers, like you can write on the wall in blood. Rooms can get real cold. You could be like a poltergeist and throw things around, but nobody can see you, hear you, or talk to you. However, you can have somebody play a medium. So it's kind of like, what was that show? Ghost Whisperer.
Yeah.
Or just Ghost.
Or
Whoopi Goldberg's character from Ghost.
Yeah.
But this was it was kind of neat because everything's kind of fueled by karma points. And if your ghost self ever gets killed, depending on how many karma points you have, is what you reincarnate as. And you look on this chart. So at the bottom of the chart, you can come back as Pawn Scum. And at the top of the chart, you come back as like this sort of Dalai Lama enlightened being. Or anywhere in the middle, like another human or a dog or a monkey or something.
So either way, you're coming back as Pawn Scum. Got it.
But so that one was kind of interesting. But we had a lot of fun with that one. The other one I got to, and this is one of those. This was on the Holy Grail. I haven't hunted down for years list. Run Out the Guns by Ironbound Enterprises. It's a pirate game that they came out with at the tail end of the 90s. And I like pirates. I'm not huge into pirates. But I had a very fun experience with this. I was at Origins Game Convention, and there was a people that had a whole room dedicated to running this game. And they ran it nonstop the whole convention. And they ran it like a real world space MMO. So you could walk into the room. It was free. You didn't have to pay. You could make up a character, and then they had multiple game masters at all times. And you could play for a while, leave, go play whatever scheduled game you had or whatever. Come back, you had a couple hours or time free. You could jump right back into a game playing your character again.
Interesting.
And they did that. And the thing is, especially if you have familiarity with Rollmaster, it takes you like 15 minutes tops to make a character with this.
Oh, that's nice, because I have the Rollmaster game, but I only got it because it had a Foundry module, so I could automate most of the crap for it. So if I have to, it's a pretty fast game system when you have the computer doing all of the stuff behind the scenes. It's a nightmare otherwise.
Well, in here they actually use character templates.
Okay.
In the character class templates, there's things like like mariner or sailor or first mate, and it's all different ship-based things. But you can also use those to like generate your background as a character. So when I did it, they gave you 3 backgrounds. So I took like sailor, ship's cook, and marooned. So my thing was I became a sailor. They made me the cook. They ate my cooking. They hated it, so they marooned me on an island. And but it was really
pie, huh?
huh?
Moose turd pie,
You read
huh?
my mind there, Owen. Get out of my mind. Get out of my
Utah Phillips
this,
is the guy's name who said that, who did that thing. Just let you know.
But this thing, it's still got everything in it. It's still got like all the little advertisements and the catalog.
Don't you love that when you score something like that and it's in that kind of condition?
But it's got
that has the.
Oh, is it the Caribbean?
Maps of the Caribbean.
Oh, that's cool.
Still, it's got 2 sets in here, so it's like one set is a nice one, and the other one you can draw on. But it's all
that's actually why I like
all the little booklets.
Is I can print stuff off for the PDFs wise, but no, I mean those are kind of cool. There are so many RPGs that were out there, and now I hate saying it, but I'll buy stuff that's AD&D, things like that. But, yeah, maps are great. Little side note is, do you remember the Ultima? And they actually came with like their kind of plastic maps the plastic cloth map. They're like polyester or whatever. And you're like, oh my god! And now you're just like, oh, we're giving you the extra special one, and it's just it's got some artwork, and you get a couple of skins. That's what a sad.
I wanted to say
deluxe version.
Might and Magic, the PC version also had like a cloth map.
Oh yeah, well those old ones actually had the, I liked the Ultima one. It's like, hey, here are the monsters. They would have artwork that was in there. Then they would, of course, the monster was like the old 8-bit on there, but they actually had real artwork in the books and stuff. And I was like, yeah.
This is what
it's hard. It's hard on eBay. People, most sellers are. I'm not going to say most. 60-40 of the sellers are absolute freaking blatant liars. And when they say it's complete, you better know what you're supposed to be getting in that box set, or you better go over it with a fine-tooth comb when it comes to like cards and counters and things like that. Because usually the reason why it's being sold is because the owner knows it's incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, you should be telling them.
Say that, because out there somewhere there's a guy who's missing or has, the parts that it's missing, and between the two, you can put together one complete game.
Speaking of, when we talk about box sets, and of course I'm going to ignore the Free League box sets, which I think they've done a fantastic job. That Star Frontiers box set, when it came out, I mean, it had everything you needed. And I was like, wow, this is great. It had the counters, it had the maps, it had adventures to do this. I just love that. I wish that, and I also liked it when they did the Nighthawks as well. Because it met. I know that you guys are big miniatures, but man, I still grew up on counters. I'm quite happy with counters. And
same here. I probably have close to 100 games that are all counter games. From the mini games, the Ogre and Warp War and things like that, the little micro games, I should say, all the way up to Starship Troopers from, I think it's SPI, the John Carter. What's another one I have here? Freedom in the Galaxy, the Dwarf Star games, the Task Force games, even the little TSR games that came in a little plastic box. Freaking love those things. And so many of those games, like if you go look for one, they're going to be 20, 40, 50, 60 bucks for a lot of these little old games, or like the John Carter SPI game, that can go for as high as 250 bucks. And then you get it. And then you get it in the mail, and you go through it, and it's great, and it's all that, and then you will never find another human being who wants to play it within 100 square miles of where you live.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of them. Is like even when I mean, this sounds terrible.
Mhm.
My father would buy games. I would ask to play it with him, but he didn't have the time to read a 40 or 50-page rule book, so he never played them. And I was like, Dad, you literally bought these, like Starship Troopers being
Yeah,
the
my
perfect
old
one.
man did the same thing. He bought a lot of the original bookshelf games. Like one called Owari was just like a stone moving game where you had X number of stones and you moved them around the board. It was like a remake of an ancient Egyptian game, like kind of like backgammon or something like that. Um, but he had other games like Acquire and like different games where you simulate a court case or things like that. Just like weird, obscure, prestige bookshelf games, and he had like a crap ton of them. And I don't think he even read them either. They just kept lining up the shelves like me, thinking, well, yeah, when I retire, and he passed away at 44, so
I mean,
retirement never happened.
that's some of the things when you start looking at it. Was I have a lot of games, and I'm laughing because I have one of my friends. He has 600 plus board games, and I was like, "Hey, son, I'd like to buy Nemesis, because it's this big board game and gives you the alien feel. It's like the best alien game that doesn't say the word alien. Nemesis is a lot of fun whenever we've played it. And what we
Off grid,
found
you
out,
can actually print it for free if you've got a printer. Barbarian prints from Dwarf Star Games. I've got a copy of it, and if you want, I can hook you up with the guy who actually has the mold for the one and only metal miniature piece that was your counter to go across the boards. So if you want that, he'll hook you up for like $4 or $5 maybe, because it's like the 10 millimeter scale little Barbarian, and of all the Dwarf Star games, it was the only one that had a miniature in it. Everything else was cards and counters. But if you go online and search, I forget where it is exactly, but you can literally print that game off for free instead of trying to pay, about $100 for it for an original. Or you
so
can wait until I die and I'll put you in my will.
but I mean, but there was so many, but like for the board games, a lot of them are coming out and they have the nice miniatures and everything else. And I'm going to get sucked into the Conan one again for Monolith, which when
Looks
they come
nice,
out,
but I know I'll never play it, or at
you know
least I
what
won't
though?
play it until I, open up a shop, and then, I'm literally gonna have to put like ads and papers or something looking for players. Or does anybody know if Uncle Adam from what the hell's is the Pachow guy? What's the Tabletop Minions? If he ever put together that app uh, to like it's like a dating app for gamers where you can
Oh yeah.
find other gamers in your area to play specific games.
So all I have to do for me is my local library has a lot of that. I just have to
Because it
find
doesn't,
people.
doesn't sound like a great
Meetup
way
too.
to have. Doesn't it
It
sound like a
is.
great way to have somebody come into your house and rob you and only take your games?
Well, here's the problem is that most
Give you all
people
your
don't do.
40K, right?
Here's what I have to laugh at. Those are the same
Thank
people
you.
that want to play with you anyway. And like for my son, do you know how much money I save by not buying games and going over to my friend's house to play them?
Hmm.
That's why I
Back in the day, oh yeah, yeah. My friend Richard, he was the only guy in our neighborhood. We were friends before this and long after, but he was the only guy I ever knew had the in television that actually had the Dungeons and Dragons game, and it was
yep.
shit. But we would all freaking huddle around there taking turns trying to play it, and the beholder would kill us. It was just retarded. It was just one of the dumbest games I've ever played. But yet we all, and then I had the Atari, and then something else after Intellivision went away. I think it was a Nintendo. But we'd all, go to different people's houses, and burn out their game system or games, and then go to the next guy's house or the next guy's house. We had kind of like a circle of friends, and we always made sure to get completely different game systems around the holidays, if we could, so that you know we'd have a reason to go to each other's house during that part of. I think it was like basically middle school. Once high school hit, we were
So
not really playing a lot of video games.
my only issue with Conan is that it's a huge box, and I don't feel like carrying it up 3 flights of stairs. But it's but no, I played it once with my son. He enjoyed it. Really, I'm just looking at a certain point of getting, when I build my house, I'll get it big enough to have a game room, which is going to be basically my living room. But it's already, I'm like, look, if I'm going to be a bachelor,
if I ever get to Texas, I will be sure to drop by and help you get those games played.
I still didn't play Star Wars Rebellion. The only reason I haven't played Star Wars Rebellion, it's a 4-hour game, and I bought the Dune one, the Dune game, and I only played it with. I've only played. I haven't played it in almost a year, but when I have it with my son, well, actually, it's a little less than a year. But with my son, we went over and we would play after he did all of his homework. We'd sit there and we would go play the Dune game. And it'd take about 2 hours. We did about every other day or so. It was actually a lot of fun. Now he kept beating me every time.
That was fun.
Well, no, I mean, he's like, "Why aren't you doing this maneuver?" I'm like, "Son, I can't do that because the sandworms keep eating my characters." And then I was like, "Yeah, it was actually." But again, a lot of these games I think are going to be a lot of fun, and you have to play them 3 or 4 times. It's like, you have that Twilight Imperium over your head. The problem is it takes like 6 players, and it takes a whole weekend to play.
Yep.
And for us, like, I really enjoyed Nemesis, but with 5 players, it took about 6 hours to play. So
yeah, but think about it. Think about it. If you had, a decent game shop with a decent game area and someone you could trust to handle the register, right?
Yeah.
You could literally, advertise, "Hey, Friday night we're playing freaking Twilight Imperium until we're going to start at 5 p.m. and we're going to play until it's done."
Oh, I
You
know.
would get people to show up. You know what I mean? You would.
I'm not saying you can't get it, but you have to go out of the way. Like I said, it's faster for me to drive 3 hours to Houston, play with my friends there over the weekend, and drive back than it would be for me to get everything here. And that's why because of this, I have saved myself thousands of dollars in board games by just going over to my friend's house. And it gives me a good excuse to hang out with him.
Yeah, what games does he come over to your place to play?
He doesn't. We all just go over to his house. And when I say we all go over, we're getting people from San Antonio, Austin, myself. So we're all driving like 3 hours to his place. And then we have a few of our friends in Houston. And then now we're getting up to like 8 people willing to play because my friend just got married. His wife is having a lot of fun. I grabbed my son on my way down to Houston. So there's
nice,
so we get that. So yeah, we get a bunch of them.
Delivered tomorrow.
And he's
speaking of mutual guys we know in Texas, you heard from Brian?
Yes and no. He shows up and he works like 12 hours a day, so I don't get to talk to him. Whereas before he was unemployed. When he was unemployed, I could, yeah, let's go do this. Last time I talked to Brian was like actually saw him and things. We were at Millennium Con, which is the board games, which is the same one that I played. The Moby Dick, the Lego Moby Dick, and that was actually a lot of fun.
That sounds like it could be fun.
Oh, and it was a massive Moby Dick. I mean, when just the head alone was like a foot to 15 inches long, and there are 3 parts to Moby Dick. You've got the tail, the middle part of the body, and then the head. So, and it's all humorous, but yeah, that's probably when I'm going to go back and play more games. I'll see if my friend wants to come up and he wants to do it. I forgot what it was. It was like $30 plus whatever to be a member, which was cool after 3 days. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm trying to decide if I want to take a couple days off to play it.
Hey, George, what are you painting?
You're muted. Bring it down. There we go. Oh, you know what? Oh, horses and
the carriage.
She kind of lost steam with all those little pieces. So I was painting some minis. I'm like, okay,
I warned you.
I could put red on there.
Toughie. It's a toughie. I did the same thing. Mine's not done either. It's this like gypsy wagon, and it's literally got like everything but the kitchen sink tied on the outside of it. So it's just it's brutal.
So what I was
So much
doing,
detail, so much detail.
yeah.
But
So what I was doing was like painting some minis and then like putting colors on multiple minis that like just kind of oh I'm
yeah,
using red here. I'm gonna use red here. Oh, I could put
yeah,
red on here.
that's
And
exactly how I paint. One
now I
color
got
at a time. Like I see people like bloop, 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 put like 18 blots of paint on their palette, and I'm like, yeah,
oh
no.
boy. Yeah.
What I'll fill up my reservoir. I use these little pop it things, those
Oh
little
yeah.
fidget
Oh
poppers,
yeah.
because they're silicone as a palette, and I'll just put a couple of drops in one of the little bubbles, and when that paint's done, I'll go maybe to another color, but I'll literally like, okay, I'm using red. What else on my table needs a little bit of red to make sure
Yeah.
I use it up, because it is a pain in the butt to have to wait like a week or 7-10 days when you order like a couple of colors of paint and you can't finish a project because you're waiting for that paint. So I'm like really, really tight fisted with my paints. And lately I've been actually like, if I buy any color, I'm just going to buy two. Save me a trip,
Yeah.
to
Well,
that
you know what?
website.
You know what we need to do if we're ever going to do this, and this is probably the best way of doing it, is people can paint armies. You have an assembly line and say, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, and just get it like you can get like 7 or 8.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I know it looks a lot better now with the light on it. Because
Well,
it was
because
all black
I did
before.
the dry brush silver and some metallic,
Yeah, that
not
looks a
metallic,
lot better.
speed paint red over the silver. And this is just the back engine. And I'm doing this sort of source lighting thing. It's
Yeah,
actually
that's kind of
blue
cool.
and it's blue and yellow and white. Um, see if I can.
Really, I wouldn't even tell that there was any blue in there. That's cool.
Oh, well, I
I
got
guess.
to put more blue back because I'm trying to get like that sort of Star Wars Battlestar Galactica blue
Yeah,
exhaust effect. But it turns out there's some neon yellow in there. It's just a real thin line around between the white and the blue, I think,
sure.
or at least that's what I'm doing, and hopefully it'll look good. I didn't want to just go with like orange and just make it look like fire. Let's play around with it and see
No,
it
I
turns
mean,
out.
that's one thing I'd like to do at some point is sit down and just paint the Conan miniatures, because I forgot there's like 200 of them or so I have for that.
Dude,
But
I right above me, I've got the
Shadows of Brimstone.
Zombicide Undead or
Yeah.
Alive Western set. I got everything from the Kickstarter, every single last thing. Only one box is actually opened. I opened up the rules and went, yeah, I didn't think I was going to like this game because the mechanics, not because I don't like the idea
Yeah.
of cowboys fighting zombies, but I can just take all those minis and use
Oh, I
them
know.
elsewhere. Find some other game or what have you, and play the same thing, or maybe later on reread the rules and just give it a try. Off grid says I'll use the outer alligator clamps that I hot glued to a barbecue skewers to hold all the pieces and not handle them from primer to gloss coat before I assemble them. Okay, that's an interesting technique. I usually just assemble primer. I don't even worry about the bases, like touching the base, because I will touch them. I don't use any of those fancy little miniature holders, because the last thing I've done is I'll take my black on a paint on a flat paintbrush and just do that little black ring. I'm done.
I will say this. I think part of it is this where it helps when you get a group of people all together to paint, because I
Oh,
was like,
dude, we
look,
used to do that. Did anybody else do that? Like one night a week, we would just sit and paint miniatures. We wouldn't play. We would just sit around the table. I had a friend. He had all the paints and all the stuff before. Like, it was a long freaking time ago, and he had an apartment. We'd all meet over at his place, and we would talk about the game that we were going to
yeah,
play the next day or whatever. But we just sit around and paint up miniatures and help him and me get the monsters and stuff ready so that we could actually play. He actually built this really, really freaking awesome table You know how you had the grid tables, with the clear plastic.
Yeah.
Well, he went out and got a piece of glass instead.
And he etched it?
No, there was a grid underneath it, and
Oh,
that
okay,
way
okay.
we could use I forget some sort of dry erase markers, but then we could Windex it clean.
Yes.
It wouldn't stain, and it was nice until that one ditzy broad put her cup down just a little too hard on the glass, spiderwebbed the shit out of it, threw the whole freaking table out, and
Mm,
saw another one of those tables again at his place. He spent
that
a lot of time doing it.
I just hate to hear that.
It
But yeah,
sucked,
no, I'm
but
not. But yeah, to me, that's the perfect thing to do. Is, hey guys, let's all come over. I know that Brian talked about the guys he plays with. They actually ship their minis overseas to have them painted, and then they're shipped back.
well, there's Fritz from Forge and Brush. He will do commission work, and there's a few other people in the states that do like armies and things like that. But that's just here's the thing. Usually, that's like $1,000 job to paint like an army or more.
Oh, I know.
Especially like Napoleonics and stuff like that. And then you get your miniatures back. Let's assume he does a bang up job. It's great, etc. And then you put your miniatures in your case. You play, you use them, and then when you die, no one's ever going to understand that those were hand painted and are worth like 4 times the value, and they're just going
You're
to end up
dead.
in
It
a
doesn't matter. You're dead.
well, it does. I'm going to be up in heaven looking down on Jack, going, "Ah, why are you doing that?"
You have better things to do
I'm
in
certain I will.
heaven than That's, at that point, you'll have all your minis absolutely painted as you want. You can actually put them on the board and find people to play with. Because all the
What I
dead
mean, though-
gamers will be up there.
Yeah, you'll be game with guy.
What I
Gary
mean-
Gygax.
Yeah,
right.
no, that's,
No, when that happens, and I pass away, if my son or wife would take the time, just a little bit of time, and went through the stuff and decided what they're going to keep, what they're going to sell, they would have a lot of fucking money. Just saying, a lot of fucking money.
you know what
And,
though? I'm gonna say this much: is it's like me with my father's crystal. At a certain point, a lot of it's getting given away to family because they can appreciate it more than I can.
Mhm. Right, but like for example, Chris, you just picked up some games, right?
Yeah.
There's a chance that they were sold by someone whose original owner passed away,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're
Yeah.
continuing that tradition of picking up some used games, playing them because they're still viable, and then maybe someday they'll go on to another person. I would rather they keep doing that, going around the planet and getting played, instead of thinking that in the entirety of all of our hobby merchandise is going to end up in a landfill sooner, not later.
I mean, I look at it differently, which
If
is
you really care about the environment and you want to keep the hobby alive, you want these things to go to other people in a way that's easy for
I'm not
your loved ones, instead of them just throwing it all away. I've seen it happen, and that's just
no.
it's
I'm not disagreeing with
tragic.
you, but a lot of times, to be fair on these games, they get reprinted in the future.
Some do, but some will never see the light of day.
I am amazed by the things that are coming back. I was like, what?
Yeah, I saw Bear was showing off. Someone's redoing what is it, Stormbringer or Elric, and I'm like,
Dragonbane's doing theirs. Well, Dragonbane's doing
you know
theirs.
why they're doing it? You know what urges people to do that more than the love of the IP is the idea that because the game is worth so much money, the secondary market, that they think if they reprint it, they will be able to sell it to a large audience.
I'm
And
going to
it's
bring a little
just-
bit different thing. I'm going to bring you a
They're not-
different part.
But
which
it's not a reprint.
Yeah, it's not a reprint. It's a whole new. It's using a whole different system. The other point is, and you may not realize this,
Just using the identical cover of the
Right.
original.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Michael Whalen
That's
cover.
even worse.
It's
It's a
using.
Michael Whalen cover. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I understand that, but
If you want the best, use the best, man.
I mean,
I understand that, but
Michael Whalen.
it
no.
wouldn't be
You're
hard.
understanding two different things here. One is this is Dragon Maid, but the other part is I'm going to mention with this with the Star Wars stuff. When they do the reprint, a lot of times they do that to kill the secondary market, so people actually play the game. Because like a lot of these Star Wars stuff, they get printed about once every 3 years, which is weird. But on the secondary market, like, hey, I like to play this game. Do you know what it was going for at one point? It was like $200 for the book. I'm like, people don't play it if it's going to go for $200 the book. And then when they reprinted it, all of a sudden, all of it went back down
Which
to MSRP.
Star Wars game?
Which one?
Which one?
The Fantasy Flight one.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I've never owned it. I've got
No,
several
no,
copies of the West End version.
yeah, but I'm saying, I'll just use a few of these as an example. So, these are the Gadgets and Gear book, which is pretty nice. I mean, it's got decent artwork and everything else in there, but it's got the Gadgets and Gear book. They only print it once every 3 years. And so after about a year or so, you can't find it on anywhere, and you got to go to the secondary market. They jack the price up to like $200.
But isn't that just Fantasy Flight that does that particular strategy?
So yes and no. The point being is that a lot of times what happens, companies go bankrupt, and that's why they can't print. Now we're, to be fair, we are really in a, when you talk about drive-through and stuff, hey, guess what? I can buy a lot of the old stuff as PDFs now that if I want to play it. But do you know how hard it is to get players into a game when you only have one physical copy of one book and there's nowhere to get it? Players don't want to invest in it all. At least with a PDF, whatever version, like when you're saying stuff is dying. But I'm laughing because, again, the same thing with this one. And what I've heard is from licensing aspect, what it is for Asmodee, which owns Fantasy Flight and everything else, to get the IP for the games, the board games and everything else, they're required to have an RPG in print that's active. So what they do is, at a certain point, you have a glut of whatever the system is, and then people aren't buying as much. But to get new players in there, you still have to print every so often. So what they do is, just to keep it active and to keep their license, because they're required to have an active RPG, is they print it off about once every 3 years.
Yeah, like who was the other company I was thinking of? I wanted to say Conan, but
that's a licensing thing. But that's a licensing thing. That's a license that when they get it from Disney requires them, and I guess it was LucasArts, whatever, requires them to have an RPG, which I find funny. And really,
well, I mean, it makes some sense. I mean, otherwise they could license it to someone else who might be able to make some money for them.
They're getting money either way. Is the point? They're getting money, but the real money for right now for Star Wars is not, of course, not the RPGs. It's their Battlefront system, their Hoth game. That's where they're making all their monies on the minis. But to get that license, you also have to have an RPG, which I find funny. That's just it's a tie-in. So either way, again, then I have this one too, which is, boy, this is a beast of a book. We talk about RPGs, and this is just one of the three.
Really?
But this one is like 400 pages, and that's the core system. But yeah, they had a sale for May 4th, and some of them were like for $15 or something, and they're normally like 50 or 45 or whatever. I'm like, cool. Okay, that $15 is, and I'd like to try the system out at some point. But just like the D6 system, they could not legally sell it. So what they did is they just put up there as free PDFs. And because it's not a system that anyone else used, they can't really copyright it. And so you can't steal it either. And that was a great way of getting the D6 Star Wars out there. Same thing with, I think there are a couple other games out there. Like But yeah, I mean, while we all talk about physical books, I like the fact that we can get PDFs now. So now if players want to do it, they can look it over, they can buy it. The fact that Star Frontiers for the longest time, and they changed it, but for the longest time, you used to be able to get all the Star Frontiers modules and books in PDF for free, legally. So when
On drive through?
No, it was on a website. It was completely free because TSR.
What website?
It's defunct now, but they legally had it. So what happened at the time was TSR was going bankrupt, and right before they sold off to, I think it was right before they sold off to WotC, or that time frame, they gave they said you are allowed to have all the PDFs up there if you want, and so the 50 people playing Star Frontiers or whatever it was at the time, you had access to all the books and everything else. Well, yeah, because I was hunting them down. I was trying to hunt these PDFs, and I found them. And they actually had the letter that said that they were allowed to post it up there. As long as they didn't make any money off of it, they could do it, for selling the PDFs or anything. WotC did it. Well, I think when they went to Drive Through RPG, they said, hey, we want to have this back now. They said, okay. But at least these old games we can get back now. Like Merp, technically they can't get you for copyright infringement. Why? Because they can't sell it, because they don't have the license for Merp. But no, the Stormbringer, I will say this much: Free League really does care about their IPs. They're the ones that did Blade Runner. Their starter sets are excellent quality. They're heavy.
Because I heard it was literally the same game.
No, it's not. Not, but even if it is the same game, I don't.
I think the game that they're using now, is originally based off of the game that the original Stormbringer was based on,
which was basic fantasy roleplay, right?
Right. What's the new one? It's called, what is it? Dragonbane?
Yeah, Dragonbane is not anything like it's a D20 system.
Yeah, but apparently it's somehow it's in its history is the original Stormbringer.
Well, I guess you can, but I'm not going to watch.
But then the other one is the competing one is going to be Dungeon Crawl Classics has an Elric game coming out.
Do they? I don't know. It's one of those things that.
Oh no, they are.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the because I usually look at Dungeon Crawl Classics for a lot of their stuff. The other one that was out there was I didn't realize this. Chaosium, which had the Stormbringer, apparently never paid Michael Moorcock for the license.
No. 3 hours.
No, what I mean is they were supposed to. And they were
I know.
Yeah, and so
I will watch it in bits. I don't want to watch 3 hours.
We're picking up somebody else's thing.
Yeah.
Whose wife is that? That must
about
be George.
3 hours. Oh, okay. Sorry, George. But no, those are things that, again, I'm glad that they went out there, but for the longest time I couldn't find any of the Star Wars because I was kind of interested. I said, hey, I want this system, and it just wasn't reprinted, and I had to wait. Like I had to go find on the secondary market and go on eBay and say, well, okay, someone still has a copy they want to get rid of, and then all of a sudden it showed up, and it was like, oh, okay, I can buy this for a lot less. But it just, and they don't print they don't imprint everything off. They're like, we'll do a printing of this for 1 year, and we'll do like 12 boxes. They're like, okay, that's all it gets out. And then we'll do the printing for this one. That's 12 boxes, and that's all that gets out. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I got kind of, and it sounds terrible. I got burned out.
I don't know if you can see it. There he is. He went and he did an official announcement talking about DCC is going to be putting out the Elric role-playing game.
Interesting.
I've got almost everything for the original Chaosium one, and I bought it when I was just buying stuff like crazy and just filing it. Thinking, I'll go take a look at it. And a couple years ago, I went and I pulled it out and I looked at it and I'm like, it had nothing to do with the system, more the IP. And I'm like, yeah, I can't even think of any reason to care. The books were fine. I don't hate them. Don't. They're not in top 10 or anything. They're okay. They needed to be there in the the history of fantasy. Okay, cool. But I have the world was not so evocative that I wanted to go play in it. You know what I mean?
My
Does that make any
Yeah.
sense?
my
It's just
real
like,
issue
eh,
with
I know how
I
the story's going to end. It's not going to end very well. And yeah, I know you could play at different eras, blah blah blah, except in the future. Um, spoiler. But I'm just like,
you can play in the
you can
future.
never
You just don't
get
play as Elric.
no. That particular world does die, and there's nothing there. So you can't beyond a certain time date. You can't play on that planet. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, but
which
there are
also
multiple
means,
material planes. That's the whole point of that in the
yeah, but you
multiverse.
can't play on that specific world. Okay.
You,
Yes, you can play in that universe, but not on that world. But it also means if you play on that world in the past, you know you're never going to get uh, to a certain level in the way of power or prestige
why?
or notoriety
Why?
because uh, most GMs just won't allow it.
My view
Yeah.
is once the players start, is like we'll keep everything canon right up to a certain date, and from that date forward, you change everything. Which is the way it's like look, otherwise I'm just playing a static world and I don't care. I don't care as a
It's kind
DM,
of
I
like
don't care as
trying
a
to
player.
play in Middle Earth.
I, I
Exactly.
have no problems playing in Middle Earth, and guess what? I don't care what happens in 1,000 years. You can change everything for all I care, because we're the because what is it, Second Age or whatever it is what they're playing. If you're doing Middle Earth
Hmm.
role
Hmm.
playing game, it's like 500 or
But
400 years before, um, the books. Like
but you at least I would know going into any of those IPs that no matter what I did, it's still not going to be like remembered because Tolkien's dead or whatever, and he's not going to write about my adventure. That there's really going to be no longevity of my fame and fortune. It's going to be forgotten.
why?
Um, well, because nobody else is going to know about it except the 8 or 12 people at the table.
How's that
Oh,
different than a
you
regular?
mean
How's that different than a regular D&D game? No one's going to
yeah,
remember
exactly.
that
The
one.
I'll explain. Any other game has the potential of becoming something bigger than just a game.
Uh,
Someone could
but
literally take that. A perfect example is supposedly Josh Whedon's Firefly was a traveler story, and there may be people, friends of Josh's, who know that such and such was based on their character, like Malcolm Reynolds was based on their character,
so
or
what?
something like
I
that.
can write my own story and modify it as I want based on what the players do. Um, in fact,
Just make it a knockoff world of fantasy that's not
yeah,
Tolkien, but how many other authors have done? Hell, Shannara and all those other ones are basically
Mhm.
Tolkien.
I
Just
mean that's why it doesn't bother me for a lot of stuff because
At which point I would say, then why are you actually using, uh, MERP as your game engine?
because either I like the system, which is usually what
Mhm.
happens, and then the other part is, and then if you really ask me why would I use a world, it saves me a lot of time, but and players for researching because this is the problem of when you want to talk about really alien worlds is if I really want to make it alien, at that point I have to make up my own, not just monsters, which monsters I don't find as bad, but then I have to start making up um, the
Oh,
stuff that
there's
you
a
don't find.
crap ton of work involved in in world building.
Oh no, no, no. I mean,
I
but flora and fauna. Then I figure out my economic system. Then I have to figure out. And again, this is why I don't mind stuff that's Earth adjacent and just modify it, or I take certain things, um, because I'm really when I'm using someone else's setting for the initial part is I'm saving myself probably hundreds of hours for that initially.
Mhm.
The other part is the characters are somewhat familiar, which is why with fantasy I think this is why it does a little bit better than Future. Though everyone feels like Star Wars is theirs or it used to. So even
Mhm.
people who don't like sci-fi a lot of times still love Star Wars because they can feel like it's theirs.
Off grid, for example.
Well, it's not just him. I'm talking about my friend's wife who will not touch. God, trying to get her to try a new RPG is a pain.
Mhm.
But she said, "Oh, I'll do a Star Wars game," because people feel familiar enough that it's not that jarring again. And I think that's
Mhm.
why whenever we talk about any IP, the players that can go through it again. Most, if you have a player that doesn't really care about the world or the setting, he doesn't really care what you're playing in. But
Mhm.
but it's easier to get a group of people who know what they're getting into by saying, "Hey, we're going to play Shannara. We're going to play this," and you're like, "Oh, I'm familiar enough with
Yeah,
the world."
it's funny. I was thinking
Yeah,
about this the other day. I was watching a video on Star Wars,
yeah.
and there's really only, the number's probably wrong, but I'm going to say like a half a dozen IPs based on movies or books or TV or whatever, um, that have stood the test of time, and that you could, like, they're so universally well known that you could probably get someone who's never played a role playing game to play it if they were in fact a fan of that particular IP.
Well, I think that I think there are a lot of them actually. Alien being a good one. If I say, "Hey, let's play Alien,"
Well,
no,
the number isn't in triple digits.
for what? For Alien, or no? We're doing.
No, the number of IPs that you could do that with.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you that, but I do think if we're going to just talk about certain things, is your big IPs are of course Middle Earth, Harry Potter. Um, I think that you could do it with Alien because there's been enough of a franchise for that.
Star Wars,
Is
Lord
there
of the Rings, Star
Star
Trek.
Wars.
is there
Yep.
any good Harry Potter RPGs out there?
No,
5e.
because there's no good Harry Potter.
5e. Actually, to be honest, is
I like
Harry
it.
Potter. I actually
I know a lot of people do.
it's not that there's anything bad about it. It's just aimed at a different age group, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and it's a different
It's
generations thing. Like I'm glad
Oh yeah,
because like everything is like retro. It's like all these things being taken from our childhood and just redone and remade and remastered and rebooted. And it's just like, okay, can't these kids have their own thing? And Harry Potter is like one of the few things that's not our
oh
generation.
yeah.
Like
well, I
literally,
also
Absolutely.
Ready Player One has become true. Like where everybody's obsessed with Gen X or
well,
in early millennial stuff.
well, you know
Yeah.
why? Is
Mhm.
I'm not trying to knock it, but my
Well,
son
because it was
said
the
this
best.
specifically. Well, my son said this specifically when we were watching Lord of the Rings, which is in the early 2000s. I mean, it's been 20 years, which you have to laugh at. Over 20 years for that. He said, "Why can't they make movies like this for my generation?" And I think part of it really comes down to
Because
um,
they've all signed on to a suicide pact for Hollywood.
no,
You were
no.
going to say something, Chris?
It,
Hey,
yeah.
somebody posted this concerning the Elric thing. It said, not one, but two Elric role playing games in 2027? Hooray! Stormbringer fans have two role playing games to complain about.
Anyway,
True.
but the other part that I want to bring this to is a lot of the writers and things like that have no real world experience now
Yeah.
overall. A perfect
Oh yeah.
example was the Star Trek writers had generally fought in World War II or in Korea. To be fair on this, a lot of them had either been
Yep.
drafted and had done that. The similar things had happened even for the movies in the 80s, like when we grew up.
Hmm.
Oliver Stone was in, whether you like Oliver Stone or not, it's irrelevant, but Oliver Stone had fought in Vietnam. Their people had real world. And I think the problem now is a lot of people, when they have stuff, all that they have is other media to base their world on. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's part of the problem that they have is, when we joke about touching grass. Well, what have you done? Have you worked in any manual labor? No, I have not. Have you
And
gone over?
I can already hear their arguments. You don't need that. You can just use other people's experiences from what you've read.
Well, that's true, but the problem is then, but then you're getting more. When we talk about derivative,
it's a
you're getting
clone of a clone. You're just going to get diminishing returns.
multiplicity.
Yeah.
It's that's what I'm referring to. It's like, okay, but you have to do certain things, and you have to go through adversity. And I always laugh
It
when
does, off grid. It's going to be fun tomorrow. I will see you then. Enjoy your evening, bro.
even the things that were, you have to get kicked in the teeth sometimes. You have to have struggled,
Right?
and if all your struggles are basically, I went through school and then I went to college, and then when I graduated college, I was just trying to find a job. It's like, okay, you don't have anything that we won't call like the hero's journey. You've never done a hero's journey. You've never had, the whole thing. We're not saying that people can't, but the other point is that they want to tell their stories, but they have to latch onto someone else's work to get their stories out. And the problem is their stories are crap because they have no real world experience.
Yeah. How can it be? How can they, in their heart of hearts, think that they can be a better storyteller than someone who's got a story to tell?
Well, that's true. And I'm not saying that you can't do certain things, but you still have to work hard. And like, okay, you get fantasy, that's great, but not everyone is going to go through these things. You still have to go outside the world. You have to go outside your comfort zone. And I think part of those are a few of the problems. And you're not being mentored by older people, so you're not even getting the stories of the old people that you used to get. Like, well, okay, that sounds good when I hear my grandfather talk about his time in World War II. Now let me switch it up. The same thing happened with Tolkien.
Have you heard Rob Schneider's bit on talking to his grandfather about World War II, survivor's guilt?
Oh no, I have not. It's
oh my god, I'll find it for you. It's freaking hysterical. It's only a minute clip, but it's a minute short, whatever. I'll find it. I'll share it with you guys. It's fucking hysterical. Oh my god, because it goes where the last place you'd expect it to go.
Well, but I mean, but the whole thing that when you start going through this is, go sit down and talk to people. And
he was George. He was the real deal. He did it all. Yeah. He did it all. And
well, who else also did a lot of stuff? Christopher Lee, and and actually Tolkien.
But did he actually write anything?
I'm sure he
did.
I know
did he ever write a book? Did he have children?
I don't know. I just know this much is that he was playing, because I remember seeing something on his website. At 97 years old, he was playing heavy metal music. And this was a couple of years before he died. But he also did the OSS stuff, or he did the stuff behind the lines. During World War II.
OSI or
whatever
OSS.
the equivalent was for them. Yeah, whatever the equivalent was for the British.
OSI is Venture Brothers. Sorry.
Well, I think there is
secret intelligence. No, it's the OSS. I know because I have my grandfather's supposed OSS gravity knife.
My grandfather did stuff, when he did counterintelligence, and I'm not sure all the stuff that he did. My grandfather was a character anyway.
OSS or SS?
OSS, Operation of Special Services, or something like that. But my father,
it's funny. Speaking of that, in the top secret SS or SI, excuse me, second edition, top secret, one of the books is literally like a history of espionage in the 20th century, and oh my god, there's some crazy shit in there that I think TSR or whoever was writing that particular book actually had the sort of net runner cybersecurity issue with the government coming to their door, like Illuminati, I think it was, did, or one of those Steve Jackson games had.
I remember getting Steve Jackson, the one where they went over for him, and
TSR or whoever wrote that book had like the same kind of issue where people, from the government were at the door with a bunch of freaking questions.
Well, but again, even if going back and reading stories, you still talk to people. That's what real world experience is. But you can't just live in your
Mhm.
head and talk about
Mhm.
stuff. You have to go out and do these things. Just because we've all done this, we're playing with someone and they do something completely crazy. You're like, what did you do? Or like, well, no one would ever believe this. That's one of the reasons I
Mhm.
still like reading history sometimes. Is just go, nah, this is so implausible. I just put the book down and walk away. And yet it really did happen. It's
Mhm.
like, well, okay. Um, but yeah, I think, even if going to reenactors, like we joke about this, but it's like, I still love watching like Todd Cutler in Fire Arrows, where he just did one on the Mary Rose, um, where they had a fire dart. And what I mean by dart, the thing looks like it's either shot out of a ballistae or something like that, or a scorpion, I think is what it's. But
Mhm.
I mean, it's a big old dart, and they're like, well, we're not sure exactly what it's like, but this is what we did when we took it apart. And what we think of fire arrows, what you see in the movies, where hey, they light the end of the arrow and it shoots off. But
Mhm.
apparently, that's not how it works. What it is it's almost like a firecracker, not quite. And when you shoot, like a sparkler, and when you shoot it in, it keeps burning forward into something. And um, okay, go ahead, Chris. Looks like you're going to say something, but no, but yeah, the Todd Cutlet. But I thought that was really cool when he was showing the fire arrows and showing how that worked out. And yeah, fine. If you get hit by one, you'd pull it out. But if it hits a door and it burns long enough, even if it's kind of a wet door, it will actually catch on fire. Just because they'll dry it out during that time.
Mhm.
But yeah, and they did have them. They were just super expensive. Um, so yeah, I like learning stuff, but it's easier, I think, when you talk about fantasy. This is why when I like sci-fi, I want my sci-fi to really be fantastical. When we go through, because like, why would something be Earth at all? We're going to space.
Yeah.
When I
Mhm.
land, I want to see different aliens. I want to see different landscapes. I want to see like now, of course, this doesn't happen. But if you go to Venus, did you realize that it snows lead?
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you know,
and that there's actually a cloud layer that we could actually almost survive in,
Hmm.
uh, right
yeah.
above,
There's like a Goldilocks zone that we can live in. Yes, but it's
because of the
way up the top.
temperature, etc. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
Yeah. My daughter did like a whole little research paper and presentation on that in her school.
I mean, what I find really odd, and I know it's a certain thing, but most of our information about the surface of Venus, I think, comes from the Russians or the
Yeah,
Soviets. It's
Yevierno.
like, oh, okay. I think we have the radar to the rest.
but see that's kind of how I I look at my fan. Maybe it's because I guess deep down I am more of a sci-fi fan, even though I
Yeah,
cut my teeth on fantasy and D&D after or when I soon my first RPG was D&D, of course, because it was the first.
sure.
But
Yeah,
prior to that, I was reading comic books and Doc Savage and sci-fi because that's all there kind of
yes,
was accessible to kids. But I always think that why can't your D&D world be more like one of those you know Star Trek worlds from the
well,
original series. The sky
well,
is green and weird backgrounds and things like that. Instead of it looks just like another pine forest that the party is traveling through on their way to Mount Doom.
because I think again it's the players for familiarity. If you want some stuff that's different, go look at the Land of Eam and go look at Dullumwood. And then if you really want to, go look at some of the stuff from, which is interesting, is Exalted. And we're just going for settings. I'm not going for rule systems or anything else.
Mhm.
Um,
Now,
because
I
one of
was
them,
watching Mike and Jen. I think they just picked up Dolomwood and they were doing an
yeah,
unboxing and showing off some of it. And I was like, yeah, I really like the art, but I missed the Kickstarter, so not much I can do about it now. Maybe later I'll find a copy or I'll
sure.
talk to them about it
Yeah.
and see
Well,
if it's something
I
I
think you
might
can
be
still,
interested in.
I mean, you can still buy it from Exalted Funeral. It's not that hard to get this stuff. You may not get all the bonus stuff, but no.
Yeah.
But part of
Back in
it
back in
is
January when I was sick, I was just didn't want to like listen to news and stuff, so I just was binging 3D6 Down the Lines, like actual play of Dolmenwood. Looks pretty cool. I like the
Really?
whole thing.
They
got
well,
good actual plays, those guys.
And again, those are the things that, and I don't disagree with you about it. Is if you really can go fantastical, you can do it. But what I thought was always interesting, because I was used to dealing with people that were min maxers all the time. Everyone I played with was generally a min maxer, and I know that they're saying that, but the number of humans that are still played, because people want to put themselves in that position. And so it's hard to get sometimes people to go through things that are new or completely different. Like, and I still have fun with the setting because I think it's both a joke and a serious game. Was Silver Spoon was the where you get to play a food. It's you want something different, go for Silver Spoon. It's both tongue in cheek, but I'll be honest, I think the rules actually work better than most of the 5e knockoffs. Because they're like, oh, this is what your race can do. And so it's kind of, you build, but yeah, it's meant to be both humorous and it can be somewhat serious. I like the artwork. But how different do you want it to be? That's what the real question is. It's like,
I think Chris wants to share something along those lines with us.
Sure. You just reminded me. Have you ever seen this? The setting, the planet Eris.
I'm not familiar with it. No.
That's actually what the sky looks like. It's green. It's like a very. Cool. This kind of reminds me of Hyperborea a little bit.
You know what it reminds me of?
Is that one of the digest like is that like a digest knockoff?
I don't know if it's exactly a knockoff, but it's small. But they don't give you a ton. They just give you enough to give you like interesting bits of information. But I do know that where was it here? Like there's 5 different seasons. There's spring, summer, fall, winter, and true winter. I think the planet only becomes. Oh, here we go. Due to their protracted durations, the 5 seasons each are 111 years in length. They are difficult to observe. A man of extreme lifespan, 120, may tarry his entire life with barely an inkling of the seasonal advance. Because I guess the true winter pretty much scours the whole surface of population, and everybody has to go hide in the caves under the earth where it's more temperate. And at that point, like monsters and giants come out and they just fuck everything up again. And then eventually, as the next season comes in and people can come back up, they go through the ruins of their old cities and rebuild and stuff like that.
What year was that?
I don't know. This has been out since 2019.
No, the reason I was asking is because that sounds.
Send me a link if you can.
Yeah. Also, this one, you can get maps. I actually bought 2 maps because it's a small company with like 2 guys. And I thought, if I lose this map, I'll probably never get another one. But I don't know if you can kind of.
Yeah, I see it.
That's the world of. I'm trying to get it. I can only get so good with my camera.
No, the glare's not that bad.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, I mean,
see how close I can get with this.
No, if you get any closer, it actually makes it worse. You're better off holding it back where you were.
But anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, it's like got multiple moons and the sky's green, and it's like I think
more than 4 seasons.
It also kind of reminds me of what I was saying with Hyperborea. Is some of the races on here are pulled from different times and planets. Like they have Stygia, but the Stygians are actually Barsoomians.
Okay.
And it's just a very strange world that but not,
it kind of reminds me of the if you've ever seen the Carcosa digest book.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I would love to see someone do something like that. We were supposed to with our company just make world books with no actual numbers, no stats per se, just like a 50-page world book that you could use for sci-fi or fantasy or whatever. Uh, maybe I'll get back to that when I'm done with the other projects I'm working on. Just to where you could throw in some plot ideas, some hooks, etc., but not like. I mean, how many times have you been playing a game and somebody opens up a portal or teleports or whatever random? They're randomly on a brand new world, and you got nothing ready.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, have I had that? No, but I know as a player, I would probably try doing that crap. But
You know what I mean? And have a instead of just rolling a bunch of lame charts, actually have something so that you can pull out and maybe you already know it, but it's not pre-planned the quantum ogre world. It's just hey, it happened. I just so happen to have a small stack of books of different worlds. I'll randomly pick a world. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember this one. It's the fire world. Okay, cool. And then you can begin to describe it, and then between the end of that session and the next session, you can read up on it and write up some stuff and add to it instead of just having, the generic random world building charts that just, kind of fall flat, in my opinion.
I don't
'Cause, I
find that
mean,
they fall. For me, I don't find that things fall flat as long as you have enough variety. Problem is I don't want.
well, I mean, you don't have enough time to, like if it's literally
Yeah.
a random world that just you had no idea this was going to happen when you sat down at the table, and now suddenly you've got a world that you've got to, whether it's a traveler world where you're randomly generating the profile and trying to think on the fly, versus having something that's a little more fleshed out, that you
No,
can
well,
use without it being completely generated for you, to where you're taking up a huge amount of brain cells to remember it, but something that's a little bit more open ended, but still enough meat on the bones to get you and the players in there quick.
well, you said, and I agree with you on this. Settings over rules in many cases. I think there's a combination. One is certain settings need certain rule systems. That's fine,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
but a lot of times, for me, and of course, as we get older, we've had more and more and more. Like, oh, well, if I want to do this one, and I'm not trying to knock it. It's like, you know what? Okay, this is the Dark Sun world. This one's Mystara. This one I'll grab Middle Earth. This one I'll grab Volturus. This one I'll grab this one, and that saves me a lot of time when we talk about brain power and stuff like that. Hey, guess
Mhm.
what? We'll do this one. I I actually like that idea. That's one of the reasons I loved the original Greyhawk books, where it talked about not that not every hex was completely filled out, but it was enough like, oh, this is
Oh,
over here.
by
This
original Greyhawk, do you mean the Gazetteer, the sort of peachy folder with the
I
two
mean the
thin
box
books in
set.
it?
The box set is what I'm referring to. The
Oh, okay.
original
Yeah, I
box
had
set.
that too, but I could have swore there wasn't really much more in that than was in the
There, there, there,
Gazetteer.
there may not have been, except that it had a much bigger map, and
Map was pretty big for the original. I got to see if I
what?
still have that.
Yeah, go ahead. What?
What's up, Chris?
My master over here is telling me it's dinner time. So
All right.
No worries. I'm actually gonna call it here, anyways, because I have
oh,
church in the
okay.
morning. It's been doing this for 3 hours. Chris, you're always welcome. George, same thing. Omen, we'll talk.
That's
Yeah.
fine. You
Um,
can always you can always leave me, on red. You know.
Owen, I will see you tomorrow
All right.
at the game table. George, have a wonderful evening, you guys. Make sure you give your family a hug for me. I will see you guys probably Monday morning.
Sounds
Great.
good.
See you.
Happy trails, everybody.